All right, what is up, guys? We are live. We've got to jump right in. Of course, our computer decided, hey, yo, it needs to restart right before we jump onto the live stream. Some might say that type of early game start performance issues. Is it like throwing a pick six on the first play of the game? I don't know. Why are we thinking of that, chat? Hey, yo, oh, wait a second. We've got Indiana versus Oregon on in the background, and Oregon's run 3 offensive plays at 7-0 Indiana. Oh, no. What happens? I think, there's a lot of, obviously college football stuff on the line here, but NFL draft stuff on the line as well, too. And honestly, at the end of the day, the Dante Moore evaluation maybe goes to the best thing about being in the NFL is Indiana's not going to be there. Oh, no. Oh, no. They were showing the numbers already. I guess they showed that he had like 7 picks in the other games this year combined, and then 3 picks against Indiana. So I guess I don't know if that's 2. We can go back and check the box score. Is that 2 in the last game and then 1 in this one? Or, was that 3 in the last one? Was that 3 in the last one and now he's at 4 on the season? It's just like Peyton Manning versus Ty Law all over again. Oh, no. This is not... I mean, of course, they get the ball back. I mean, hey, yo, off the interception, off the pick 6. And they'll immediately get the chance to respond, I guess. But, so, you will have a chance to, I guess, make up for the mistakes, get the rhythm back. It's not like Indiana's, Mendoza's going to see the... Is that the only... Not going to see the field early on? Mendoza, no rhythm? The run game started... And to be fair to Dante Moore, we can go back and dissect the out route all we want. We got to be honest, it's probably not a great play call. Probably not the best play call in the moment for the first play of the game. Again, we know that he was not playing well against, it was a struggle against him in the last game. He was already turning the ball over. We could even go back and look to see what exactly led to those, recall what those exact turnovers were as well, too. Exactly what happened on those plays. And see, there you got to, an open shot to not open, but a good pass, dropped it in over the secondary. Receiver found a spot to, make the play, pause, and unfortunately just right through his hands. Hey, yo, Oregon, the nerves is tough. You hate to see it. I mean, we know that Cignetti is going to have his team ready to go this year, but I would say that Lanning with that preparedness, I mean, you see him immediately having to, talk to Dante Moore on the sideline after that interception. And I guess at the end of the day, what are you going to do? Criticize? I mean, you can, again, like we said, I don't think that that's a great play call given the situation, having your quarterback throw an out route. I think that's the first thing you probably have to tell him when he gets to the sideline. But, again, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily Dan Lanning's fault that, again, if Lanning had Mendoza, would he be in this same situation? I don't know. So we can go look at the portal stuff for next year and see, because I think Indiana had a guy transfer in already as well too. I don't know if Oregon's got, I'm sure, will have, or they'll be fine for quarterback next year. But for the hierarchy, head coach stuff, but even just for the the game plan stuff, the inner game stuff, like it does seem to gonna be down to a lot of the individuality with the quarterback play. But the coaching stuff is, and maybe we haven't watched the ESPN shows enough as well too over the past week to see what the storylines have been leading in, but it does seem like you would assume the quarterback stuff is the highlight stuff, but the coaching battle is interesting as well too. And I was thinking about just the level of both of those combined. I mean, you're going to get the high level coaching quarterback play to some degree throughout the course of the college football playoffs. And, again, it's no disrespect, I guess. Are we just calling out the Georgia quarterbacks? You start going through like, oh, what teams have won the national title, what quarterbacks, whatever. But, even Alabama as well, too. Like, they've obviously had, their runs of having, again, great quarterback play. We're not, we got McElroy on the broadcast right now. McElroy's a great quarterback, but I don't remember exactly, where he was in the draft as well, too. And they went for a while there with their quarterbacks not even really being, of course, that highly favored in the draft as well too. But with the level that we're getting, like we're saying here, the combined 1-2 battle is pretty crazy. And we could go back through the Heisman voting as well too, because I believe these were the 1 and 2 for the Heisman this year. So we could see, and obviously the playoff matchups, of course, has expanded to allow this to happen. but Oregon, I guess, was the 5, so it's realistic to say. I guess Indiana, they won the Big Ten, so I guess Oregon wouldn't have gotten the old school 4 seed, Big Ten automatic bid. That would have been Indiana. I guess it would have been Indiana, Georgia. I guess that makes it interesting for Miami as well too. Miami being in the national championship, and I guess maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves for national championship storylines, but I'm just kind of thinking about that. It is make the 12. It is make the 12 team playoffs. Ayo, chat. Welcome to the very professional Remington Pod 2026. We're locked in. It is interesting. There we go. I guess we'll say it that way. It is interesting that the 12 team playoff has actually allowed teams that we wouldn't probably rank in the top 4. And, again, we don't know if Miami's going to win the national championship yet, but it's at least allowed those teams to make the national championship game, because Ohio State would not have made, we hate to invoke the name this early, but, they would not have made the national, they would not even have been in contention after losing that Michigan game in the 4-team playoff, because, that game would have knocked them out. But 12 teams, they still got to be in. It's not that detrimental to knock them out, top 15 or whatever. So they still get the opportunity, and then when you go back in, again, not to pause, not to say that they weren't a top 4 team from last year, but, with the college football system, with the resumes, with the quote-unquote politics of picking the 4 teams, we know that way the resumes shook out, it probably wouldn't have aligned. But they get the opportunity, they make the best of it, and they end up winning, and Miami has a chance to do that as well too, where they go in as the 10 seed. And again, I really would have to go through and because the way they've been messing with the conference seedings, I guess and I guess that maybe it has more to do with the buys as well too, which does have to do with seeding. But I don't think it would drop them all the way down to the 10 seed if they were the ACC champ. Hey, yo, we weren't even locked in on the ACC this year. It is what it is. I guess Miami might have been the ACC champ. But is Oregon Indiana's taking a timeout. Okay, so, first quarter down 7-0. At least you're up to 3-2 on the timeouts. I don't know if that means anything. It's only the first half. It is what it is. But, again, they are driving. They are controlling the pace here early on. And, again, I guess not to say that, do you eliminate a whole section of the playbook and out there? But, are we really relying on out routes in 2025 for 2026 for college football? I think we understand the degree to difficulty at which, we're gonna throw the most difficult, risky route right away, especially when we're, all that. It wasn't even that good of a kickoff return as well, too. I don't remember exactly where the field position was, but I guess it was backed up from even the 25. So it was, that short of a field, you're going to go for the riskiest throw right away. Maybe set the tone, display, whatever, pause. But, it does seem like it was not necessarily the play worth having there. So you get back in a rhythm. You actually get to, I guess you have your own risks, obviously, thrown over the middle of the field. But they have had moments. They have been able to run the football here a little bit on this opening drive. So I think it was 1st and 10 there when they called the timeout. Hey, yo, we're rambling about the fact that we're still upset that Ohio State won the national championship last year. It is what it is. At least it's not them this year. Thank goodness. Thank goodness it is what it is. Is that why we're pulling for Miami, chat? Hey, yo, they've got a lot of things checking. They're checking all the boxes right now. They've knocked out Ohio State. They've got Michael Irvin on the sideline. There's really, not much more that I think you would need to get us cheering for your team outside of, I guess, them, being, if Michigan was, can we get, I guess Michael Irving's too dedicated to Miami, and I'm not saying that we wouldn't want Michael Irving rooting for Michigan, but obviously his passion for Miami is, I guess if he did just wake up one day, if it was I guess, it's not like a Groundhog Day situation, but if there's some movie where he wakes up and Michael Irvin's just in a Michigan fan body and he's all of a sudden just a Michigan fan, and alternate timeline, maybe he went to Michigan. Maybe that's really what we want out of this chat is, Michael Irvin's college career. It should have been for the Michigan Wolverines. Though, Michael Irvin in the Big Ten, I guess we have to go back and see, 80s Big Ten where they high-flying offenses back then. I guess, were there high-flying offenses in the 80s. We're just going to disrespect the whole decade. Were there high-flying offenses in the 80s? Dan Fouts played in the 80s, right? Hey, yo, Warren Moon. So these guys were... here's a guy that was throwing it around, Warren Moon. So, again, I think there was still... explosive quarterback play. But I don't know if, and Michael Irvin was still, putting up the stats, and obviously in the NFL as well too. But I guess I don't know, and I guess they did have quarterback play because we don't know the lineage of Miami quarterbacks, but Miami was obviously talented outside of the quarterback realm, and you maybe don't, Miami as well too is another one where the quarterback talent, maybe in the NFL was a little bit different name value wise. But the college performances, obviously, that they were getting from those guys, legends of the 20th century college quarterback stuff, because it does seem to be, and I guess maybe, I don't know if the Mendoza Dante Moore thing leans into this a little bit as well too, and maybe it goes more into the NFL abilities and quarterback development and all that different stuff. But it does seem like sometimes the names for the guys back then, I guess it's, random to some degree now as well too. We're just used to just to some degree, the legends that we have now, where, going back in the day, it's like, okay, Josh Allen, 7th pick, Mahomes. I guess, those guys being at the top of the draft, there is some, again, they're not right at the first pick, but, I guess close enough. But obviously you still get Brady and Brock Purdy, but you get Dante Moore and Mendoza, where you get the best quarterbacks in college, and then you also, we're guilty of it as well too, immediately projecting the NFL stuff as well too. And I know we haven't seen Mendoza yet. We're really curious about Dante Moore, obviously, as well in this one too. So that's, an interesting game from that perspective, where we're going to have the ability to be able to dissect a little bit of draft stuff as well too for both these guys. Game tape chat. We get to watch some game tape from these guys. It's going to be fun. But it's going to be, like we said, a lot of fun matchups with those two guys battling back and forth. But even learning, being introduced to more star players. So there you go. He hits the seam guy down the middle. What do we got? Is that a tight end? We got a good route there. Again, we're finding guys pretty wide open. So far, he's been able to make pretty easy throws. So you gotta chalk it up to play calling, and the rhythm of that was really great. 14 plays, 7.5 minutes. So, again, takes your time, really, I guess, I don't know if that's the scripted, did they use up all their offense? Of course, we're going to see, how he's going to be able to respond throughout the course of the game. Because, I guess it was closer, in the game last time, and then Indiana, I think, was able to, I guess, should we go back and look at the score? What was the score? That might be helpful as well. And we know, of course, like we were saying, Dante Moore's stats in that game compared to his season stats. But I don't think that was like Mendoza's best box score game as well, too. So that this Oregon defense has the capabilities, at least to, for him as a quarterback as well, too. There is a little bit of a difficulty there. Not that it's a bad thing. You've got to see every side of the performances as well, too. If you're just talking from that analysis standpoint, it is helpful. What does a guy look like when he's facing defenses that make him struggle versus, again, just like him cruising against some easy performances. But yeah, against Oregon, 20-30, 20 for 31, 215, a touchdown and an interception. And by far his least aggressive game as well, too. I guess Old Dominion to start the year. I guess Old Dominion to start the year was his worst game. Maybe we need to go back and study the Old Dominion tape. 27 points. Is that their lowest output? Oh, no, I guess the championship against Ohio State, 13-10. But before that, Iowa. Hey, shout out the home state. 20-15. But Old Dominion right there, 27-14. And, the Penn State game as well, too, post James Franklin, making it a little bit difficult there. Now, of course, the Penn State Cyclones, as they bring over the whole roster there, following their coach. But yeah, we know that they're going to be hopefully able to, rattle Mendoza as well, too. So as he gets to take the field here for the first time, this will be fun to see. But we do also have, of course, NFL playoffs underway starting tomorrow. So I think it's going to be, and this playoffs is going to be, of course, interesting as well, too. I mean, it's the, pause, the wide, can we say the wide openness of it is pretty crazy. Maybe we just say that, it does seem like there is a lot of opportunity for teams to win. And sometimes you hate to narrow it down to where it just sounds like a Bleacher Report graphic or something like that. But outside of, like, obviously the 2008 season where Brady got hurt, and, you know, again, ayo, the legend of Brady, you know, obviously had to develop a little bit over the course of his career, but those teams were, you know, again, dominant enough to start it. But basically this century, this is the first Mahomes Brady-less playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. And, you know, you know, I guess we're not sitting here, you know, all of a sudden just turning this playoffs into a GOAT case for Brady. But and, you know, it just is what it is. I guess, did they miss the playoffs his second year? We'll double check that and see. I know maybe he won like 9 games that year, but I don't know. I guess I was assuming that maybe they just like lost the divisional round or something. 9-7 as a starter in 2002. Let's see what we got here for playoffs. Oh yeah, no, he didn't play in the playoffs, so I'm guessing that means the team didn't make it in 02. So, you know, again, we would not necessarily be remembering that year too well in the memory bank back way, you know, for us, way back then. In 2002, yeah, they were second in the AFC East, so only one AFC East team making it to the playoffs that year. Belichick with Charlie Wise and Romeo Crennel on staff, but also Brian Daboll, wide receiver coach, Josh McDaniels, defensive assistant, Bob Ryan, the linebacker coach. So I guess we could see what was reworked there to help him, I guess, get back to the Super Bowl as well. But so from 2003 to 2025, you know, again, with the exception of 2008, but all we have to really do is just like say like Peyton Manning as like a third quarterback in there, and then just, you know, just one other quarterback to cover our bases for the third season. You know, we could even, I guess, do Roethlisberger if we wanted to. The Steelers won the Super Bowl again because Mahomes and Brady are going to cover every other year. So, you know, shout out Roethlisberger. I mean, you know, great career on the football field. You know, was able to win some playoff games. You know, you got to give him his respect there. But maybe we would include Peyton Manning before that. It is what it is. So yeah, 2008, you know, unfortunately the playoffs did not go well that year for the Colts. But, you know, again, at least they were in the playoffs. So I guess, you know, again, Josh Allen could be right in that mix with all the great quarterbacks, but, you know, he hasn't quite had that, you know, final playoff resume addition of, you know, getting the Super Bowl or whatever. And unfortunately, you know, it has, of course, been because of, you know, Mahomes and the Chiefs most of the time. But, and, you know, that's where immediately the playoff rankings, you know, he's the first guy you think of in the playoffs right now, I think, for the NFL. And that has to mean something, because this is one of the most difficult games, I think, to pick. Is that the Monday night game as well, too? So if that's the, you know, the headliner game, in a way, the final game, then that would be a great finale to the first round. 3rd and 4, Mendoza. Is that Surratt, the receiver with the back shoulder throw? So Mendoza, you know, the pinpoint accuracy, shout out. But the tough receiver by Surratt. And we were going to mention earlier Finley. I don't think we completed the trail we were going down there with mentioning him. But we were going to mention the cornerback Finley for Oregon as a standout guy we've been getting to see more in these playoff games. And I'm not sure, you know, we could go double check. Obviously, there are other corners as well, too. But I think that secondary is really, really solid. So it's going to be good for pause. So it's going to be a good matchup, just those guys battling against the receivers, because I think you could see a little bit more of the Indiana running maybe some zone stuff where, again, those receivers for Oregon were kind of working their way around, where it's going to be a battle for these Indiana receivers. You can see it on that last possession. And fortunately, you know, these guys are both really good. We're going to be, is it just Indiana makes announcers that just the voice cracks, Chad? It is what it is. If every time Amarion Cooper, or is it, we got to double check this guy's name. Shout out. Every time it should just be memorized at this point, because I guess if Gus Johnson had actually been able to pronounce it, then maybe we would know what his name is. It is what it is. But unfortunately, the play was so great that it's Amarion Cooper in the back of the end zone. Touchdown. That's a little bit more Sean McDonough. I guess Sean McDonough on the chat over under. What's the voice crack over under for Sean McDonough? I mean, you know, we can't say anything, but Shout out. Hopefully we get another legendary moment at the end of the game. That's, Derek, what, I forget who was it? I forget who had the fumble, but it's the most tackles in the history of the Chiefs. Shout out. So I guess, again, we don't know the names. If the announcers could say the names, we'll blame it on the announcers. It is what it is. But, okay, wait. So Omarion Cooper, defensive back at Memphis, Florida State, Colorado, Memphis. I think we got not the receiver that we are looking for. Is it Miller? Let's see. Wide receiver. Oh, that's the wide receiver, Colorado. 18 yards of reception this year. 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. Hey, Omarion Miller needs to transfer. Somebody needs to get this guy out in a good offense. How did he get 800 yards in the Colorado offense? Shout out to Dion. Hey, that's not going to sound like it after we just trash his offense. But unfortunately, maybe not the most elite this year. It is what it is. But, speaking of Dan Lanning, was the first great Dan Lanning moment was the game versus Dion. It is what it is. It's like a moment in Contender Series where it's like, wait a second, Dion's like the star Contender Series. What happened? Where's Dan Lanning? Just character out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. Again, obviously, he'd been turning Oregon around at that point, but it was like, oh, no, actually, And with all respect to Dion, obviously, shout out, it's like, okay, this is what actually like a good program looks like in college football. It is what it is. In the preparedness, we got to see maybe the competitiveness level of some of the Colorado teams against some of the other teams as well, too. But the preparedness of that Oregon team was impressive in that game. They were locked in, ready to go. They understood, hey, there are eyeballs on this team. There's people watching this team at the moment. There's a focus on what is happening here. We have a chance to, steal a little bit of shine, but also, again, there's just going to be that pressure that the minute things start to go well for Colorado, people are cheering for him, and it's not a bad thing, but it's still that pressure on the other team to be able to handle that and battle that. And they obviously, were able to pretty easily take care of everything. It is what it is. But Indiana, little run game right up the middle, easy first down pickup. I didn't see if that was second or short or first or third and short, but it doesn't matter. Right up the middle for the first down in the red zone. Where's Scott Hansen when you need him? It is what it is. Oh, right up the sideline. Touchdown, Indiana. Oh, is he out of bounds inside the 5? So I was double checking the Indiana run game stats as well, too. And, again, Mendoza has had a great year. But even looking at his final numbers for when he was winning the Heisman, you see the graphics like Mendoza, you get the fire emoji on his stats. And again, no disrespect. He's had a great year. This is the best year. And he's, I guess we could go, maybe we will double check the best player in the history of Indiana football. Maybe it's Pat Coogan, honestly. Shout out, MVP of the last game. I've never seen an offensive lineman win an MVP for something. Did Jake Long win an MVP in like a bowl game with Michigan back in the day? But I've never actually seen a lineman win an MVP. It gave me hope that maybe we could see it in a Super Bowl. Ooh, chat. I guess speaking of our NFL playoff player rankings, would we have Trent Williams at an honorary second? I think we saw on the ESPN bottom line that he might be questionable for this first playoff game. And I guess it's against Philly, right? Because there's people in the restaurant. Somebody in the restaurant wanted to bet another guy Philly by 14. So it almost made me want to bet Philly by 14 because you're just like, I guess I don't want to say just a guy. Hey, that's crazy. IT, cut that out. But, when you just like overhear a pick that sounds crazy, then you're like, that's probably actually what's going to happen. So I guess lock it in. Philly by 14. It is what it is. Apparently their offense is elite now. Oh, there we go. 2nd and goal. Speaking of the out route, there we go. Indiana, they know how to run it that time. I guess maybe Mendoza knows how to throw it, but the receiver, and you're running that at any point. The out route is going to be risky. There's going to be a lot of open field for the defensive back to go if he is able to make a play on the football. But a little bit better break on the route by the receiver. It seemed like there was a little bit better of an angle for Mendoza to make that. A little bit more separation as well too. And obviously great throw by Mendoza. And because of that pick 6, it's not the first drive. It doesn't make it 7-7. It makes it 7-14. If he gets the field goal, gets the extra point. Yeah. Not a question. 7-14. So Oregon's still okay, but that's just, and the fact that Indiana gets the football to start the second half as well too. Obviously Indiana doesn't have the legacy of you can't have those mistakes against Indiana, but they're the team this year that is that team. that, they're the, we would probably say the most well-coached team. Again, I guess Georgia's right there as well too, but especially of the teams that are left at this point. Not, I guess, especially, again, Dan Lanning, all these guys are great coaches, but, we would say that they're the most well-coached, locked-in, best executing team we've had so far. I guess, do we double-check penalties? I don't know. But even Miami, they had some penalty issues at the end of the last game that almost allowed Ole Miss back into the game. And there was some news regarding that as well, because Chambliss was committed. We were talking about Chambliss's draft stock for us personally, just being like, okay, this is a guy that we're really starting to, buy in on. And he apparently was trying to commit back to Ole Miss for another season, a sixth season at Ole Miss. So, I mean, it's just a smart business move at this point. The guys, if you're just going year to year, you do make more money sometimes in the NIL, a lot of times in NIL for these high-level guys than you will, again, year to year on some of these rookie contracts. I think some of the numbers floating out after Sorsby, there was this quarterback for Cincinnati that transferred to Texas Tech, Brandon Sorsby. And I think he's getting more money in college to go play at Texas Tech than Drake May, who might win the NFL MVP this year, first-round pick for the Patriots, than he is making in the NFL. I want to double-check that just to make sure, because Drake May was still the second pick in the draft. So I imagine that's like, is there like a taxes number, an agent number in there? I don't know. I feel like maybe Sorsby would have some of those same, I guess Texas Tech, hey, working around it there. I don't know if that's fair, but I feel like, well, I guess, fair to the graphic on House Highlights is what we're saying. Hey, we're not trying to get political, but, I don't know if it's fair to Drake May's salary cap number, because I feel like as the second overall pick, you're still in the double digits, I would imagine. So Sorsby, I think, was getting $5 million this year to go to Texas Tech, and I think there was somewhere like Drake May's salary 4.7. So again, that's got to be salary on the East Coast. Hey, it is what it is. But either way, it's close. So, and again, it's not lucrative to stay in college. You get the ability to hit free agency as soon as possible in the NFL, in professional sports, of course, does matter. At the end of the day, those second and third contracts are going to be, that's still, NIL hasn't quite caught up to that at this point. But, again, he was still willing to return and lock in for whatever Ole Miss was going to try to run back next year. And, just the whole post-Lane Kiffin experiment that is going on right now, the vibes of that. But I do kind of, it's just, I don't know, hot take. I do kind of think it's again, I don't, a guy's trying to go back to college. Who am I to sit here and say it's a good thing that, he gets to take a different path? But again, if I was at least an NFL GM, I'd be excited that he's going to be available in the draft, because that's a talent right there that is really, really proven himself again in these playoff games. And I will say, last night was an all-time display of dropped interceptions. It is what it is. There's no way around it. He was, and some of them were tough as well too. And I think, again, are we locked into Ole Miss every game over the college season? Definitely not. We'll admit it. It is what it is. But, you see it in Lane Kiffin, the quarterback guy. You can see some of the telegraph stuff, but you can see kind of also maybe what Shanahan likes in a quarterback, with just the ability to say, hey, if this is the play design, I'm willing to run it, and I'm willing to make a quick decision and fire a pass. So it's like, hey, you know what? Garoppolo, maybe he's going to throw 2 or 3 a game that you're like, oh no, where's that one going? And, I don't know, maybe even Cam, again, it's not just Garoppolo, it's not just guys for the 49ers, but because of the decision-making of that offense, if you just pause, let it rip one time, and it's like, oh no, actually there's a linebacker undercutting the route. It's like, oh yeah, that's going to get picked, except for last night. Miami could just not hold on to interception. There was one that just like, it was like, I think it maybe even bounced off of the Ole Miss receiver first, but it was off the Ole Miss receiver and then through the hands of a Miami defensive back, and then he batted it over to another defensive back, who then batted it over to another defensive back, and then he dropped it. There was somehow 3 guys that dropped an interception at one point, and then just again a couple gifted. But it is what it is. He's a young quarterback. He'll learn. The IQ will continue to climb up there. So end of the first quarter, all things considered, 7-14, Oregon, not bad. Oh man, what a start, chat. You hate to see it. Again, there is some definite some definite interception, quarterback interception against team problems that we know about. You know, we mentioned Ty Law in the past. Speaking of that '08 season, I think that was one of the years the Chargers took down the Colts in the playoffs. So there's some Antonio Cromartie, PTSD that's there as well, where it's just like, oh no, it's, you hate it when the one cornerback just has your quarterback's number. It is what it is. But yeah, for Chambliss, anyways, like we're saying, that's again, I don't know if, again, NFL teams are going to match what we were saying. We checked Tankathon a little bit ago, and it wasn't updated to match maybe what his performance would have been in the college football playoffs. So let's see if there's no way he's not on the board, especially now that he's been denied the waiver. He's got to be listed. But yeah, the Mendoza won. Dante Moore to the Jets. Oh no, I don't know. The Jets. I mean, do we say that the pick six will fit right in? That's too mean, chat. We can't start saying he hasn't even played a game yet. He hasn't even got there, and we're already trashing his Jets career. It is what it is. But I guess there's something about that pairing that just makes me a little uncomfortable. I don't know if it's the Jets side of that or what, but yeah, it's not. I don't know if anybody in the Jets match made it happen. Okay, they do have him on the list now. If I'm not mistaken, they didn't have him on the list before. So 125, 125th overall on the entire big board. I guess they've got him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th for quarterbacks. So again, Mendoza, Moore, Simpson, Nussmeier, Mateer, Carson Beck, and Chambliss. In Chambliss, again, you see, I guess 6 foot is, going to be a talking point for sure. But you got Mateer and Nussmeier at 6'1", and Simpson at 6'2". So, every inch matters, chat. But I don't know if, again, with the way Chambliss was performing, if Chambliss knows how to use his 6 feet, then it is what it is. Chambliss versus Nussmeier, again, you could just put Nussmeier in a better offense and say, here you go. I'm sure that would, I'm sure it would help. But I don't know if Nussmeier is ripping passes in the playoff game the way that Chambliss is. And, we just saw him in these fourth quarters as well, too, against these really great teams. Again, Ole Miss is, they've only, at this point, I guess there's not like a other bowl game that they're going to play. It is what it is. They only end the season with 2 losses, one in the regular season. So, again, it was an elite team overall as well. But we saw his confidence in some of those fourth quarter moments. Going toe-to-toe with those teams was really impressive. So, and again, like Ole Miss, you could see really trust him the entire time. So I think Miami as well, too. There is a trust there with Carson Beck that's like, okay, if we have to run passes, we'll run passes. But again, it's like Ole Miss, like that's their offense. Their offense, like we get to run passes with Chambliss. So again, he's got the most yards of anybody. Beck's up there as well. I wouldn't have necessarily expected Beck to be that far ahead of everybody, but he's also had, some extra games as well, too. Mateer was injured throughout the course of the season, so it's kind of on pace for, I guess, games played for some of these other guys. But yeah, still, either way, Chambliss pushing 4,000 yards, 22 touchdowns and 3 picks. So again, could be 6 after last night if they all got caught. It is what it is, but even still, I guess would be amongst the most efficient. And matched by Drew Aller, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His 3 interceptions is a different thing. I think the conservativeness there is, of course, something a little bit different. Wait, does Tankathon have Lagway ranked over Miava and Arch Manning in the draft for 2027? I think this has got to be alphabetical by last name. Yeah, because they've got Miava, Manning, and Meestmaker 3 in a row. So A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I. Can we go through the alphabet? L, M, N, O, R, S. Okay, yeah, it's alphabetical. Hey, yo. Jesus, chat. We had to make sure. I mean, Arch Manning, the stock took a little bit of a hit this year, but in the 2027 class, the name's still not looking too bad. I mean, Sellers, saying some of these guys, the list inverted. I guess Arch Manning would still be at the middle. Pause. Jaden Miava, though, again, we kind of need him at the top of the board as well. There's a Lagway. I mean, we're pro Lagway on the, I guess. But we got to double check Sam's stock on Lagway. I'm not sure there, but at least Team Rem is pro Lagway. Speaking of interceptions, though, 14 picks. Yep, he'll have some, chat. He will have some. It is what it is. That's a nice way to put it, I'm sure. But pause. But yeah, Chambliss, again, I think it's going to be one of those things that, again, not us to say, not us to choose his path, but I think it'll ultimately be a good thing. I think maybe the combine he'll be okay. Again, like, I guess Mateer maybe, pause a little bit thicker. So I don't know. We're looking at Nussmeier. Is he calling out Nussmeier in the ring? Ayo. But even Simpson, 6'2", 208 versus 600, 200. Like, would and I guess Simpson was really great this year as well too. Simpson was he one of the 4 Heisman guys? I'm trying to remember. It was, Mendoza again in Indiana. The storylines of that were locked in all year, and I guess we were giving Dante more credit for that as well too. Oh, it was Jeremiah Love. Was it Mendoza, Love, and Moore? I guess those would be the 3 represented. So you'd have a couple more just on the voting ballot as well too. But yeah, I'm really liking Chambliss in this draft class as a sleeper pick. And maybe it is just the value of that as well too, because 125, you're starting to look into the 3rd round like we're saying. I guess, would we spend a 1st round? I mean, I guess we wouldn't spend a 1st round pick on Chambliss. We'd spend it on Sauce Gardner in a trade. It is what it is. But, wait a second. It's a good thing we did that? Did we trade a pick next year? We'd also trade a pick next year as well, too. So, IT, look that up. Did we trade a next year's 1st round pick? It doesn't matter. We got Sauce Gardner. But, yeah. So, again, 1st round, I guess, is a little bit of a different conversation. But all these quarterbacks get talked up as well, too. Like, this is how the Take-a-thon mocks go at this time. Somebody's mocked to the Steelers in the 20s, and then that person's going to get drafted in the top 12. It is what it is. So, I guess with the Dolphins, we did say we're kind of liking Quinn Ewers. I guess we're double talking now as well, too, because we were saying on Sunday now. Now that I'm remembering our own live streams, we're kind of liking a lot of these random names and some of the random, quote-unquote, that some of these quarterbacks have, where it's like, hey, Tyler Shuck, he kind of was doing something. I guess, we'll see what the Dolphins, ultimately end up doing. I'm assuming they do a little bit more of a reset because, of course, they did just move on from McDaniels as well, too. So, again, another guy where I'm sure that he'll get the opportunities will, what are we saying? The opportunities will arise. Somebody, one of our sources at the restaurant said he already got hired, which I guess, I'm not saying in a head coaching capacity, but we can double check here and see where he is at. Lions rumor reveal Mike McDaniel's T. Martin as offensive coordinator after John Morton firing. So Dan Campbell, I guess, is still safe. So yeah, McDaniel, I guess, not hired at this point. Probably mixing it up with some Harbaugh news. It's okay. It is what it is. But we've also said maybe Mike McDaniel for college as well, too. So I know, the Michigan job's already taken. Is the Utah job taken after, Whittingham stepped down there earlier? But maybe there's a little bit of a smaller school as well, too. I don't know. Can he take the Dion route? Can Mike McDaniel go to Jackson State? I don't know what's allowed there. But I'm sure Mike McDaniel is. It is what it is. But, I guess, hey, again, what are we making calls over here? But, yeah, I guess we just him as a head coach is ultimately, I guess, another thing that we do want to see that again. Hey, it is what it is. I guess, well, maybe we'll see what the coordinating, job looks like as well, too. I guess our opinion could be informed, if the Lions aren't picking up more 1st downs if they end up bringing him in. But, he was, and, again, it's just our, I guess, infatuation, is that the right word? Our, again, obsession. I don't know if that's a little too strong, but maybe it is. From a football standpoint, our obsession with the Shanahan offense, and he was a real unique part of that. Where and the defensive guys, I think, stand out on the Shanahan tree because, again, that how how responsible Shanahan is for the offense there. And the defensive guys, there is a viewpoint of them standing alone a little bit, maybe in their ability to coach what they do. Hey, we got to pivot a second from the football stuff because we also have Magic Sixers on in the background. I don't know. I think IT, I don't even know how we turned that game on. IT just randomly threw that one on. It is what it is. But Embiid just fell to the floor and now he hobbled over to the bench. He's holding his hip. It is shout out Embiid. You hate to see it, but that's the highlight reel at this point. Is crazy. So we'll see if we get Embiid back in this game. I don't know. But, yeah, shout out, I guess, whatever we were saying before that. I knew I knew this sidetrack was going to get us lost. But was it Mike McDaniel related? Him going for a head coaching opportunity? But, yeah, I think it was with the 49ers. I guess McDaniel, what we were saying with McDaniel in the offense was, yeah, he did seem to, take 2. He did make an impact on that offense that did stand out a little bit, I think, separate from Shanahan, where it felt like, again, pause, like, is this guy an extension of Shanahan? versus it was like, okay, is Mike McDaniel bringing an element to the run game that is actually very unique and elevates what Shanahan does as well too. And Shanahan, is great at scheming that stuff up. And he was actually, successful at that in Miami. That was still even the best part of their offense now with Tua, and maybe the way that they made some adjustments there over the end of the season with the way that they're, I guess, and even, the way they're running their offense. They decided to run it through Quinn Ewers there for the last couple games. But, again, the run game, and shout out Achane is just a great talent. But the run game was obviously very strong there as well. And they just did like a through the visor camera angle on Mendoza. I guess there's another one. I guess anytime they just, they're going to be like a close-up on Mendoza. And some of the draft comps, again, we've been kind of not questioning his draft status, but trying to place it within, because you do this with the number one picks as well too. You kind of almost evaluate them more so within the scope of number one picks than you do actually, their own draft class, especially when they stand out like this. I think, I guess you did it with Cam Ward as well too, because he was kind of an obvious number one last year. It was like, okay, you need a quarterback. Cam Ward's the obvious number one. Okay, like, is Mendoza the obvious number one guy in this draft class? Because that's the other thing with like the draft boards with this game as well too, where it's the number one, number two quarterback. But I don't know if Dante Moore is, again, with all due respect, like, is he a better football player than like Ruben Bain or Caleb Downs? Like, there's a couple, or Arvell Reese, there's a couple of obviously really stellar names at the top of this class. But there's been some of the names that I've heard for comps for Mendoza so far. The two that I guess I've heard that have stuck out so far have been Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins. So there is, I guess, maybe a little bit of a spectrum there. Like Matt Ryan, obviously was in a Super Bowl at one point, maybe a little bit more successful. Like, could you lock Matt Ryan in for more of like a 12-4? And maybe Kirk Cousins is going to be, more 8, 12 wins over the course. Now it's easy for us, Chad. We get to go back to the old school 16-game regular season and just talk about records from back then. But everybody's just still 12-4 now. And then I guess they just play a regular game. Oh, Oregon almost had their crazy turnover. They tried to maybe run like a screen situation. It looked like, they let the defensive line through there because the pass was easily batted up into the air. Hey, not down at all. Pause. But almost intercepted there off the deflection. Fortunately, Mendoza, we get to put him in the dropped interception, the lucky interception group a little bit. I don't know. But I think for Shambliss, is that just an Ole Miss thing? I don't know. But, Eli Manning, I think, is up there with some of the guys where there'd be times where Eli Manning would throw a pick and you'd be like, wait a second, the guy, like the defensive back got a call like that their mom is sick and they have to like leave the game. It's like, what's happening? Oh, Chat Mendoza. Hey, yo, the defensive line breaks through again. They almost strip Mendoza of the football. He has like a fumble interception catch to himself. And I guess I don't know if it's a sack or a tackle for the stat keepers make up whatever you want there. It doesn't matter. It's going to be fourth down. That's the stat that matters, chat. We're in coaching mindset at this point. Oh, they did. Yeah, he did get the strip sack. Hey, yo, it just never touched the ground somehow. The offensive lineman kind of reached back and knocked it. Hey, yo, pause. Knocked it up. Hey, yo. And Mendoza was able to retrieve it again. Was eventually, I guess that's a sack maybe at that point. So fourth down, the punt is big. They do eventually, they do get to the stop here. They got stopped last time as well, but at least they can tie up a little bit as well. It does have the makings of a field goal drive, Oregon 10-14, and you're like, they could have used the tie here, but they did have that. We'll still rely on the fact that opening drive was, impressive with their ability to work their way down the field. So hopefully there's able to get back into some of that stuff. And I guess maybe we should have paid more attention to the second drive, but Moore was maybe standing a little bit more confidently in the pocket than Mendoza has been at this point. And, hey, yo, Coogan, this is the MVP. Is this your MVP? Hey, yo, the offensive line MVP, they got to step up and hold the title of, I guess, that best player, best, whatever, most reliable unit in the game that we have. Just the Big Ten offensive line stereotypes, I guess, anyways, that are there. I don't know, is Oregon offensive, but, Oregon's offensive line is one of those ones that, again, I don't know if you'd stereotype them, hey, yo, as an offensive line school. And we could go back and look through the drafts, offensive line school, Panay Sewell. If we were a rapper, we could probably turn that phrase a little bit better. But, that's the first name we think of when we think of Oregon offensive linemen. But I think there's probably a couple other ones, I'm sure, that are out there or have at least been drafted pretty highly. And, the evaluation from the collegiate standpoint was there as well. But, I want to just keep talking about Chambliss as well, because Chambliss is our guy. Chambliss is going to be our first team all draft prospects if we're just building our team for this draft. It's Chambliss. I don't know what Indiana takes. 1, 2. Testing. Are we back? There we are. Okay. Microphone plug back in. Pause. We're going to go. I don't know. I don't think Indiana's making a trade, but, again, his ability to power that offense was impressive late in the game. So we do have to shout that out. So our NFL playoff player rankings, we've got Josh Allen number 1. Do we actually officially have Trent Williams number 2? I don't know. But again, like we were saying, the default isn't really there like it has been in the past. And I guess that's sort of the thing that stands out from this playoff run, because there's always that default team that you're just like, okay, well, we don't know who to pick. Maybe there's even that evenness, and even if they're not the most, obvious best option there, just the fact that there is that reliability and the familiarity with their performances does make it easier to, pick them again. Obviously, Kansas City has been there in the past. So I don't know if we're underestimating the Bills in that sense, because again, like, we don't have Kansas City in this playoff, so I don't know if it's as simple as that. Again, the Bills team maybe itself isn't as high powered as it's been in the past, but I don't know, you get Josh Allen in these playoff games, we know exactly how they work, with the Bills dropping passes at the end of the games and stuff like that. But the reliance that they can have on the one player and his ability to just throw the offense on his back and power him through the games, and then James Cook being as reliable as he has been this year, I think is obviously another great element to that team. So we're going to be hesitant, to pick the AFC South teams to win, even if they've been, even if the Jags have been near the hottest team in the NFL at this point over the last half of the season almost. But, again, chat, not Dante Moore again, not another turnover, and not again, this time, not a touchdown. But it's going to be on the 1. It's going to be on the 2. Oh, chat, we jinxed it by even saying it could be 10-14. You hate to see it. Was that a muff on the exchange? Oh, it wasn't like a strip sack situation like we just had with Mendoza. Oh, was it the running back? The running back was running play action. Dante Moore was just going to turn and throw the pass to the sideline. Once again, running a sideline route, deep inside their own territory. I don't necessarily know about that play calling, but, I don't even know the execution. Is that play calling? Is that coaching? Is that just the players just fumbling the moment? Like, I don't even know what to point the finger to here. Pause for what is happening with this Oregon performance. This is just those crazy plays that, again, Mendoza has kind of avoided his with the way that they were able to recover with some of those fumble situations in the last drive. But, again, the cleanness that Indiana is able to play with a little bit. The toss, Oregon's able to get the stop. Is there a chance? They are able to cut the distance in half there, but it's a good stop. It did look like he might have the ability to turn the corner and get in, but good rally to the football. So an equal amount of plays so far for the teams. What does that even mean? 72 yards, 71 doesn't look crazy in terms of, just overall performance. I guess when you got a short field like this, you're not going to really be able to put up the stats. It is what it is. Oh, power run up the middle. I think he's short. Once again, they're able to move the line of scrimmage. So not a lot, but first and second down, it becomes more inevitable at this point that you just fall into the end zone. Tush push. Do we see a tush push? Is the tush push legal in college? You got to at least QB sneak it here. Third and inches. Hey, yo. Mendoza. Big Mendoza energy on 3rd and inches. Do we go from the shotgun? Are we going to actually get him under center? Another 4th down stop. Oregon, we do get shotgun, sort of offset fullback. Oh, easy work. 3 power runs. Right up the middle. Doesn't even matter. 21-7. Oh, chat. Hey, yo. You love the underdog story. It is what it is. at the end of the day, we'll get around to feeling good for that pause. You know, hey, yo, Signetti, there's a lot of great things to be happy for with Alabama here, but you just hate to see, obviously, the Oregon performance, the Oregon, you know, again, the way the execution has gone in some of these moments, some pretty easily avoidable stuff, especially that one right there. You know, that's just about as goofy and as random as you're going to get for, you know, a college game or any game at that. But, you know, again, it's not obviously just random, but it's still those little things that you're just like, you wouldn't even predict, you know, is Dante Moore going to fumble by the ball getting hit by the running back because the running back's going in for a play action when it's not like a play action, or the quarterback got the wrong play call there. And, you know, that's communication as well, too. I don't know. Is it Will Stein who's the coordinator for Oregon? He's been a name. Does he have a job? Is that why he's... Maybe that would explain some stuff. If he's, you know, between game plans at this point. He's got the wrong game plan, chat. He grabbed the call sheet for the team that he's coaching. But he actually should have got the ones. So will UK coach made... Oh, he's coaching Kentucky? Kentucky. Will Stein is now the new Kentucky coach. Mark Stoops. Hey, yo, did they fire Mark Stoops, or did that's got to be a stepping down, a mutual parting of ways. Mark Stoops was pretty legendary for that program. So, oh no, he was fired. 13 seasons. You got to at least put dismissed in the article. I don't know. You know, again, shout out. Stoops was taking Kentucky football to new heights. Will Levis and Mark Stoops. Iconic combo. But yeah, Will Stein, he's got the Kentucky game plan and he's trying to call plays for Oregon. I don't know how it's working out. I don't know if the Indiana staff has had the same sort of, you know, coordinators being hired off like the Oregon staff has this playoff run. But again, I would say that, you know, again, like we were saying, the execution and the play calling selection in the moment earlier in the game has been the things that you could point to. And again, it has, like, well, you know, more specifically, it has been offensively as well. They haven't had like a ton of special teams moments necessarily, you know, not a great start on the return early on. But the defense, you know, again, given the fact that they took over from the 5-yard line there and, you know, had a very little opportunity to get the stop. You know, the defense has done a pretty decent job, like we're saying, of making life difficult for Indiana. So, you know, again, they were the best team, I guess, anyways. It wasn't necessarily surprising for them to step on and be dominant early. But maybe there is something as well, too, to just the fact that, like, hey, yeah, if your coordinators, your coaches are being high. I mean, maybe it is a credit to Ole Miss a little bit that they just decided to commit with people that were actually on the team, you know? And, again, like, they're not in the college football playoff, I guess, but them winning the couple games that they did and then getting to the Final Four and, you know, them being a fun team, like we're saying, and they were right in that game with Miami. Like, it's still a really great overall run, and with the way that they played, like we're saying, we could definitely see them even being able to make it further. It's just, you know, and the defense giving up a drive here at the end is obviously a part of it as well, too. Not great, but you could have seen that season gone on a little bit longer. So they did, of course, make the right move with some of the coaching stuff that they did do there and not retain Kiffin. Because, and I mean, Kiffin's been like tweeting out and stuff like, hey, you know, shout out Ole Miss. I love seeing Ole Miss play well. It's just, you know, I don't know if Kiffin's handling the breakup the best. It is what it is. But either way, their decision to just say, hey, if you're not going to coach this team, then you're not going to coach this team. And we want, you know, people that are all in on the playoff run to be there did seem to, you know, obviously pay off for them overachieving expectations a little bit. I guess in some of their expectations, of course, were directly tied to the fact their head coach was gone. So, you know, maybe if Kiffin's there just in general, but then, you know, like, you know, the conversation, all that stuff, it doesn't even matter because, again, their head coach is locked in. He's not going anywhere. There's no extra talk about what game plans, where the time is being spent, where the focus is. It's just, you know, hey, Lane Kiffin is the Ole Miss coach. So then you wouldn't even have to worry about it. But, yeah, you get the Indiana defense now piling up on the run on first down. So second and long, probably going to be going back to Dante Moore here. And that's a tough one as well, too. Again, just mentally where you're at with the fact that, you had a tough throw early on, and then your ability to overcome that, great drive, but just a weird mental mistake that now, do you feel safe stepping up in the pocket with your running back around you? Is that type of but is that type of mentality stuff going to start being a factor for Moore as well? Clean pocket, steps up, makes a throw, is able to get the completion, 1st and 10. So as poorly as it's gone, and again, maybe it's just him turning and going to the sideline, I don't know, but as poorly as it's gone, yes, 6 for 9 to start. 62 yards. You can't go away obviously from the pass game, but from the aggressiveness as well, and from the from the fear of what your play calling could be in these certain situations. I mean, that one right there could have been a very easy 1st and 2nd down. You run it twice. You're trying to be really safe. You don't want to turn it over. You make Dante Moore have a difficult pass on 3rd down, and it's not there. 2nd and 3 now. See, maybe you can run it obviously a little bit more safely. Maybe even have 2 runs to try to pick up 3 yards here. But in those 2nd and intermediate situations on 1st down, still maybe just 2nd and intermediate, there's still maybe a bit of restraint that could be used with some of the passing play calling here, because the execution still has been a little tough. But 2nd and 3, oh, chat. And as we're saying, clean pocket, as we're giving him credit, this time the Indiana defense is finally able to get there. It was, I think, that time Moore standing in the pocket a little too long. And like we're saying, pause, the NFL stuff as well, too. I mean, there's a ton of Indiana. It's an Indiana home game, essentially. Where are they even playing this? Is this in Indianapolis? Like, what's going on? Are they playing this in Lucas Oil? But he has a moment. He could have rolled out. He could have thrown it away. They, again, obviously gave up pressure from the O-line, but there was still at least a beat there to make a play. 2nd and 3, maybe you do want to have a little bit of a shorter, safer route to go to instead of, taking a shot middle in the field, though, is not a bad call. It's an aggressive call, down 2 scores. The pressure, again, though, is able to get the sack. Maybe that is a time where you probably can't just run and punt there down 14 in the 2nd quarter. That'd be what is this, Tomlin chat? But the Indiana defensive line, this front 7 is undeniable that time. It is what it is. 3-man front, but you got 3 linebackers in the front as well, too. 2 of them blitz, just a good stunt, being able to force him up into the middle. And he may have been able to, I don't know, can we go back, watch some tape? He may have been able to pick up some yards with his legs there. I don't know if he could have maybe even gotten them in a spot to go for it, because if he gets them near midfield, I don't know how aggressive you want to be there. But, and not the greatest punt. He's going to be able to field it, get some yards in the return. They're going to get it at the 38.5, the 39-yard line. So, 4 minutes left in the 2nd half. And this goes back to the fact that Indiana now, we have to think about 2nd half. We have to think about kickoffs. We have to think about change of possession. And we know Indiana is going to get the ball to start the 2nd half as well, too. So, are we looking at 35-7 here? Are we looking at 35-7 potentially? Are we looking at 35-10? Are we looking for, real historic dominance here from Indiana? Because, in the Miami resurgence as well, too, Michael Irvin on the sideline, it does have us reminiscing about, I guess we're not necessarily reminiscing about some of those teams, but thinking about the dominance of some of those teams. And, there was the opportunity, of course, for a new champion this year. So if it's just not the year for that, apparently, and it's just the year for, I guess, Miami to win, then, or I guess Oregon. When was the last time Oregon won the national title? Am I crazy? Because they were, really close there a couple of times with like Mariota, but I don't know if they were actually able to. They did win one, I think. National titles, conference championships 14. Were national titles? Never a national title. I thought it had them listed here if they won. We're not trying to talk smack. I just, again, thought that they had, I guess they won a playoff game in 2014 and then, won 2 this year. Lost to BC. They would have lost the national championship at that year in 2014. Lost a national championship in 2010. Oh, yeah, I guess they never have. I guess Oregon, has never won a national championship. Oh, no, even going back into the Wayback Machine, back into the Shy Huntington days, Hugo Bezdek,
Oh, Prince Collison. Tex Oliver never able to deliver a national championship to Oregon. Len Casanova. Oh, Len Casanova wasn't even a good coach. He was just charming enough to be there for a couple of decades. He won one bowl game, made three. He was there for 15 years. So shout out to Len Casanova. Hey, yo. Rich Brooks as well. So yeah, I would note as in the notes, national championship. But yeah, apparently Oregon has never won. So between the three teams besides Miami, they have the opportunity to add that first banner. So that was almost one of the main reasons I wanted to pick Miami. Just be like, yeah, these none of these new schools are going to win it. It is what it is. But they don't. Again, Indiana doesn't necessarily have that history to be like, oh yeah, this is one of those feared Indiana teams. There is still that underdog mentality. I was talking to somebody at work about it, and they're like, oh, the underdog story, the NIL era, and it's like, also, Indiana is an NIL team, like we're saying, and not to say that transfers, whatever, is all just new modern age, all bad types of football. But it's like, yeah, they did get, of course, Mendoza from here. Cignetti's just a good hire, so it's not, I guess NIL, is that just the Cignetti transfer from James Madison to Indiana? I don't think it worked that way. But, they were able to, I guess Mendoza, obviously the most notable one we know about, was Surratt there before. But, and yeah, Oregon defense, here we go. Good play on first down. Able to get a stop behind the line of scrimmage. I forget the name of 28 there for Oregon. We're in coach speak here, chat. This is the coach's live stream on the Urban Sam Pod. We got 28 making a play on the running back. So you love to see, 28 out there flying around the field, bringing energy, a real playmaker, real high IQ guy. Hey, yo, where are we going? But I think he was one of the leaders in tackles this year on the team. So you got to give him credit there. Mendoza on the back shoulder. I mean, these receivers are insane, chat. These receivers are insane. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is, I don't know what the correct comparison is, but I think this offense in general might be one of those low-key offenses we look back and go, I can't believe, oh, did he get offensive PI or, oh no, defensive PI, they declined it. So he was able to, again, to fight through that physicality and make the catch. So, again, the physicality could still work in the benefit of Indiana. And it's like, oh, they just get the penalties and move the football that way. But it's like, no, Surratt's actually still just making these catches. That first one he made where he mossed the guy on the back shoulder, I don't think they called a penalty that time. But this time, of course, they did. It's like, yeah, he still makes the catch. And, our guy Omarion, we're just going to start calling him Omarion as well, too. Not to, Omarion, of course, is Omarion, but, Indiana Omarion. Is his name Indiana Omarion? Hey, yo, if he ever drops a Spotify page, maybe Indiana Omarion is his artist name. I'm not sure. But, Indiana Omarion is also, a great weapon as well, too. So this could be one of these offenses that, and again, we're kind of like hesitant a little bit on the draft stuff. Is this Matt Ryan, Joe Burrow? We're not necessarily, I guess, putting the offense in that legacy type stuff, but the strike down the field, again, where I was about to say is, obviously this is where I was going, but if they continue to, they only have one game, I guess, after this, but it's like if they make this run where it's just this dominant, it is already becoming this, but it's just like if this is actually this dominant, then, hey, yo, I mean, the football math is mathing, but then it's actually just this dominant. And this is going to be equal to some of that stuff we've seen, but then, again, just watching it on the field, especially, again, the talent of these skill guys as well, too. Is this us continuing to reinforce our Mendoza points? I don't know, but, we're just continuing to get more sold on him, watching him with his accuracy here on some of these throws down the field, these aggressive throws. This entire offense is going to be an offense in the NFL, I think, that we're looking at, like, those three guys that we're looking at, like, yeah, we, makes sense why they won the national title. Mendoza makes a Pro Bowl, Surratt's 1,000 yards. We got Cooper out here making, impactful plays as a weapon guy in an offense. And it's just like all of these guys successful in the NFL, capable of, helping teams win games. Like, hey, yo, I mean, he just unleashed that's a perfect pass. That's a perfect pass. It is what it is. High point, right down I mean, they just showed like the quarterback angle of it. That's like an Instagram, no defenders, just a guy throwing it across the yard. Some QB coach just dropping like a perfect dime. Just the football on a perfect line. That might have been the throw, chat. That might have been the throw. I mean, you got to, again, give
I don't even, who's it, Becker? You got to give him the credit for getting the step on the receiver and making it an easier throw as well. But just the ease at which he was able to put that on a line and the placement of that as well too. Mendoza's the guy. The Raiders, you're gonna be a happy franchise, I tell you. I mean, again, we got a real test. I guess it's 3 minutes left in the second half, and we're already calling it. It is what it is. We got a real test next week against Miami when they play that Miami defensive line. But regardless, there is starting to just be enough on tape. But again, even if he struggles in that game, it'll be a bummer, I guess, for the Indiana. And I guess, do we want to count out Oregon yet as well, too? Even though Indiana's going to make it 35-7 once again for the second half. But, I guess there is miracles. Miracles do happen. So you can cut that out for the documentary later, I guess. We'll have to see. But, it would be a bummer for the, again, season legacy stuff for Indiana. But at this point, and maybe even before this point, there is enough on tape from this season. And I think even in the past, it's one of those things you go back and look at, the Cal stuff from beforehand. I don't know if he's like Jared Goff at Cal. I still really don't know how Jared Goff became a number 1 overall pick. Like, you go back and I guess, again, you look at the class, you look at what's happened. It's like, it's totally justifiable. You get him in there. Oh, Chad, another sack. Did he fumble? I think he fumbled. I think Indiana might have recovered. I think Indiana might put up 40 on that drive to start the opening drive. Oh, no. They're going to get the ball inside the 35. I mean, we were talking about the offense, this entire team, the offense, the defense. So I guess, again, are we talking legacies for Indiana? Miami, they don't stand a chance. But I guess Cignetti now, well, we're going to put up a poll. Is he Ed Ogeron or is he Nick Saban? What's going on here? Is this is this one team? You get some James Madison guys. You get a great transfer quarterback like Mendoza, Joe Burrow. You get the receivers. Like, we're making the comparisons already. It's like this version of what he was able to build. What he was able to build is really special. Or is it actually, the Cignetti is here. Cignetti is here because this is crazy. I mean, we can't not forget the performances that Georgia had against some of those teams as well, too. And Kirby Smart's been right there with building these programs. I mean, speaking of Chambliss, that's why Chambliss was so impressive in that game. He basically, in some ways, put that Ole Miss team on his half. And I mean, that is a little bit of a March Madness type, us falling in love with the guy for making the March Madness run. And, that's like he taking over in the second half and scoring all the points and making all the plays for Ole Miss. And, I guess we could go back and look at the Kirby Smart history since winning those national titles. But I mean, those were as iconic, as dominant, not really iconic, but just as dominant of games as you can get. The TCU national championship game, we don't even remember that game. It is what it is, but they were so dominant in that game, it actually hurt them historically. That's how good they were. We don't even remember that game. We look back at that game and think that TCU didn't even stand a chance. I mean, again, respectfully to the guys on TCU, it's just that was just a crazy combination of players on that Georgia team. Well executed by Kirby Smart, obviously, but it was still a good team. And the fact that they didn't just beat them, like, it's all-time historic national championship margins by that Georgia defense, and to see what some of those guys have gone on to be as well too, like really, really good NFL players. Like, again, it makes a ton of sense. And defensively very comparable to any defense, what they were able to accomplish that you could throw out there in college football history. But, it's Cignetti's time right now. It's Curt Cignetti's time. And he is here as a guy, like we're saying, for the name stuff. And not to say that Dan Lanning, again, his name's like out or anything like that. But this is a little bit of a, it's definitely a belt game. If it's Michael Irvin on the sideline, it's definitely a belt game. We're getting Michael Irvin doing the belt in the at halftime during this one. That would be, again, cut it out for the documentary. Michael Irvin whipping the belt on the Gatorade bucket, and then all of a sudden it's like, and then Oregon stormed out after this. But I don't know, they look too rattled. I mean, it would be an all-time Lanning, and the players obviously as well too. Be an all-time Lanning speech. He might have to. Is Hoosiers? I think they might have dropped Hoosiers on Tubi this month.
He might have to queue up Hoosiers during halftime. Somebody tell Dan Lanning to get Hoosiers on. Oh, it's everywhere, chat. Pause. Hey, yo. Dan Lanning, queue up Hoosiers. You got Prime, you got Pluto, you got Roku, you got Tubi. NIL is good. You don't even need NIL to log into Tubi. Is that the ad, chat? Are we branding Tubi? Free marketing. I'd say we hate to give out ideas, but we love Tubi so much. Tubi, you can have any idea you want. Hey, yo, I don't know if we, now we're legally obligated. Hey, yo, IT might have to cut that out in a couple years, but Tubi either way. Yeah. Hoosiers is there. So if he needs a motivational halftime speech, he can fire that up. He does also, I think, training days there right now as well too. Sicario. He could just play the Sicario as Dea Salato. So he could just play Dea Salato, just like the ambush scene. It's just like we got ambushed in the first half, but Brolin and his team, they stay composed, they execute well, and they're able to overcome the deficit, I guess, where they outnumbered by the federal police in that situation, and they're still able to weave their way out, we'll say. Benicio del Toro, Alejandro, his character in those movies is able, obviously, to take on anybody in an outnumbered situation. Literally pause, spoiler alert for Dea Salato, 3, 2, 1. Benicio del Toro literally gets, spoiler alert, gets shot in the face in that movie. And is still able to walk it off. Literally walks it off later. So, I don't know. Is this the point, chat, when we hit halftime? Is this the point where we have to start talking about Sicario Dea Salato? It's only, I guess, 28-7, but Indiana has the ball. I guess if Oregon had the football and they were driving and they could make it 14-28, then, we'd have to maybe be like, okay, could it be a game? But I don't know. 2-minute timeout. We might already have to be doing Dave Sicario, Dea Salato takes. It is what it is. But I was, of course, the minute it drops on Tubi, you got to fire it up. And with, of course, Dune being one of the most anticipated movies for this year, we're thinking about Villeneuve. We've got, I guess, Villeneuve and Nolan dropping this year, which makes me think about how many times that's happened. We've compared their careers over in the past, but them dropping directly in the same year. I guess Sicario would have been 15, so what did Nolan had to have had a 15, right? But he also had, did he have a 16? It might have been like a 14, 16, 2014, 2016 situation instead of, dropping again, corresponding there with, but Arrival might have been 16 as well too. So like Interstellar and Arrival drop in the same year. 2010 did Prisoners, that's Villeneuve, and then The Prestige is Nolan, not the other way around. But so did Prisoners and Inception drop in the same year? Like, it's a good filmography battle. Discography, does Hans Zimmer? He's just carrying either way. It's just Hans Zimmer versus Hans Zimmer in that battle. But so shout out to Hans Zimmer. But the filmography battle, a different battle. That's a high level battle, obviously, between those two guys. But Denis Villeneuve, unlike the Dune franchise where he directed Dune 1 and Dune 2. And again, it's 28-7, so I don't know if we're allowed to go down this rabbit hole. It is what it is. But Denis Villeneuve, hopefully we're saying his name there right. We're shout out Dune. We're putting a little spice on it. Hopefully it's the right pronunciation. But he did not, I guess, direct Sicarios or Dea Salato, so we should not look his name up. It was directed by, we'll find out here in a second. But, and stay tuned, chat. Don't worry, second half, I guess we'll see if the game gets any closer. Okay, it's 1st and goal. We'll see if Indiana scores here. And then once it's 35-7, that's officially Salato time. Oh, Sicario is do we call Mendoza Sicario, chat? Whoa. I didn't realize we were going to just totally buy in on Mendoza, but that throw he had earlier and the fact that his nickname could be Sicario, and Sicario, in the NFL, Sicario means Fernando Mendoza? Is that the drop for the draft, chat? We're just giving out sound bites and Tubi advice for this entire live stream. But do we need to, maybe we'll workshop a couple of takes so they can have, some options for what they want to put in the draft. I guess, what song do they want to have the beat drop there open to? But, pitch to the running back, strong goal line defense from Oregon. You've got to give them credit for getting Indiana to these 3rd and goal situations. But, ultimately, it's been a little bit too much for Indiana here. But if you get the beat drop, and then it's in the NFL, Sicario means Fernando Mendoza. And then he walks out and shout out the new coolest quarterback in the NFL or soon to be in the NFL is Fernando Mendoza. Again, with the Andrew Luck comparisons, now we're just all in. I can't believe it, Chad. I honestly can't believe it. We've talked ourselves in. Anybody that's good with Sicario is good with me. Should we Google real quick? I don't know, what's allowed as well too. So with all due respect to our guy Fernando Mendoza, but can we Google Fernando Mendoza Sicario? Does he have a take? If there's like a TikTok with Fernando Mendoza's top 5 movies, and one of them is Sicario, that would be pretty elite. Okay, nothing crazy comes up. That's probably obviously pretty good. We're probably testing the lines of a Google search there. Honestly, probably borderline on crazy. I guess maybe we could clarify: does Fernando Mendoza like Sicario as a movie? Is maybe the best. I mean, who doesn't, chat? Who doesn't? Hey, yo, top 10 movie of the 21st century. Oh, and there it is, 35-7. Time to go back to Salado. It is what it is. Salado did not make the top 25 movies of the 21st century. So maybe we'll do the non-top 25, but actually could have been in the top 25. Maybe it's just the 50, the 26 through 50, where I guess Salado and The Gray Man are both in there. The Beloveds, the Personal Hall of Fame. I don't know what the right name is, but it looked like the receiver was falling down a little bit on the goal line. But yeah, it looks like when he gets the catch, he's going to roll over the goal line there. Because college, down by contact, down just on when you hit the ground, contact with the ground. So, if he does hit the ground with the football short of the goal line and roll in, NFL good, college not. So it is close. The hip goes down, but I think he's down, and that football's at least halfway across at that point. So yeah, touchdown on the field. That's going to be difficult to overturn. Is there like a shin down? It doesn't look like it. No, he falls forward. Yeah, it looks like even he's like kind of turning his body, so it's like his ankles and shins is like off the ground. And then, oh yeah, that football, I guess we were thinking half pause long way. So, more half, but I think it's half the shorter way, but I think it's still half across either way. Ruling on the field, touchdown stands 34-7, pending the extra point. Surratt with another monster catch for the game. We'll get double check his first round or just his draft status, I guess, as well too. Playing like a first round receiver in this game. But I guess we'll get back to Salado in a second after we find out where our guy Surratt is. And unfortunately, every time we pull up a mock and see the fact that the Colts are not in the first round, it's going to bum us out. But Surratt at 53 is going to be maybe eligible if that plays out that same way. The receiver class is stacked this year. Whoa! This might be the biggest list yet. I mean, it feels like, it grows every year. Whoa! But this is insane. Again, you've got 4 or 5 guys in the first round. So yeah, it's a stacked first round as well too. I guess we'll see as the draft plays out if guys like Denzel Boston and KC Concepcion actually end up making that type of cut, or maybe again maybe it just gets flipped down as like Surratt jumps up. I guess what's his 40 time? Maybe that could be holding him back a little bit. I don't know. Jeremy Bernard, Chris Brazzell. I remember seeing a couple great plays from him this year. He's definitely very talented. Concepcion, great playmaker. He might have a great 40 time as well too. We could double check that. Jacoby Lane, also super crazy. You got Cooper. Hey yo, shout out. Is Omarion Miller on this list as well? He might be. With how many guys we have here? We have like 20 guys and not even Omarion Miller though. He might only be. No, he was 3 seasons there, so he could qualify if he wanted to. Skylar Bell, a UConn receiver, kind of fun. I don't know how many UConn receivers we've had, but 101 receptions, 1,278 yards, and 13 touchdowns at UConn. Shout out. Was having a great year. Deion Burks at 95 immediately jumps out. 5'9", 189. I get it, but he is pretty talented. So, receiver corner, is gonna be quite the event in 2026 for the REMINGTOM pod. Oh, Moore flushed out, fires down the field, almost hits his receiver, almost a brilliant pass. Again, not to just be like, hey, look for the light at the end of the tunnel or something. Hey, not just trying to only see the good plays or whatever, but again, from that evaluation standpoint, he can still make good plays. Not to say that every play is a new play in that sense, but it is in a way. You have a chance to continue to prove what you're capable of. And then, good throw on the roll. You got a couple of defenders there, and he is able to hit that with pretty good accuracy. Like, you got the receiver making a good leaping attempt at it as well, too. But you could see that. You could see him dialing that type of throw in. Again, his throws over the middle of the field have been good. It's been, like we're saying, more chaos than it has been. A sprinkling. Maybe we'll cook up a pie chart at halftime and figure out what the Oregon responsibility for the bad performance pie chart is for this first half. Oh, a penalty. It hasn't even really been penalties as well, too. Again, it has been those crazy plays. It has been, and I guess maybe him avoiding pressure a little bit as well, too. I mean, that's always going to be the thing with quarterbacks in the NFL that, is going to be, hey, you pressure the quarterback. It's going to be more difficult. But, again, like even, Chambliss as well, too. Like we're saying, his ability to kind of keep his eyes down the field, navigate some of that stuff, continue to make positive plays, even when the plays do break down in a sense, is maybe a little bit more there. And I think that has been something with Dante Moore. Not to say that, again, everything has to be, if you only make scripted plays in 2026, then you can't be a quarterback. But it does, and you do see the scope of what that limits now in the modern offense. And again, I guess if you don't have necessarily a guy that can just literally just spoon feed a quarterback stats, again, even like Kevin O'Connell can do that a little bit as well too. But if you are going to need a quarterback, even just every now and then to scramble out, make a extra play or whatever, like, maybe that's not the A+ attribute at this point in the game. And, it's just that overall sort of a little bit of the composure with some of that stuff that maybe is the part that seems to get rattled a little bit. I don't know. Kind of trying to sidearm that one on 1st and 20 into the dirt. A little bit of a tough throw. So he could definitely return as well, too. I think there has been, not to, again, completely immediately write him off as a draft prospect, but it is a tough spot. It is a tough spot because, like we're saying, Chambliss, he could go in the first round, but he even if he goes in the first round, is he going to work his way up to a top 10 pick in this draft? Again, it's still a long process. Bo Nix was able to be a 12th pick, and, the Broncos are the 1 seed right now, so it's not like it hasn't not worked out in a sense. But, again, Chambliss, I guess unless he goes to the Jets later. I don't know. If you go to the Jets with the 16th pick, that was the trade. Something about that does, for some reason, give you a little bit more, just a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit easier to envision that being better for some reason. I don't know why. But if they were able to get, like, Dante Moore with the 16th pick in the draft, I guess, yeah, you're going to get Dante, but you're going to get 2 better players than, Ruben Bain and Dante Moore. Then, with all due respect, probably at this point, we would evaluate that as better than, Ruben Bain and Gerard McCoy, but Gerard McCoy could be great as well, too. Hey, that's the draft. Or what would we say, Gerard McCoy and Dante Moore? But, I guess if you could get one of those other guys, like we're saying, as well, too, you'd, from an evaluation standpoint, feel a little bit better about that. So Oregon will finally get to the 10 points that we were mentioning earlier, but it will be 35-10 instead of 14-10. A little bit of a miscalculation. I guess we can't even say that now as well, too, because we can't just chalk that up. It's a 56-yard field goal, so we'll see what happens here. But, yeah, a little bit of a miscalculation by us, not going to lie. Did not think that was going to go this way. And, the line swung like crazy for this game. Of course, the dominance that they had proven just versus everybody was definitely recognized at this point in Vegas. Oh, it was short. It was right on the money, but it was short. So this is not one of these like situations anymore where it's like, oh no, if they had that, like what could have been, but just at least anyways a representation of what this first half was. Chet, that's right. It's halftime. It's 35-7. Oh no. It started poor it ended poor. I mean, you gotta, hey, yo, shout out Indiana for the incredible performance. Signetti is, hey, yo, like a great coach. We need to listen to the halftime here. He's got the classic played great, but a little upset look. Though Signetti, he does have this, like, go back and forth with that smirk. He'll work that smirk in there, where Saban never really. Saban and Belichick were the same, and obviously, and Signetti feels like a, again, just I was almost gonna say a Mount Rushmore. Hey, we tread lightly if we start putting Saban, Signetti, and Bill Belichick on the Mount Rushmore. I don't know if that's the way it would go, but again, it's just like, I guess, a Mount Rushmore of that vibe, a Mount Rushmore of the sleeveless hoodie coach vibe. Like, could we see Kurt Signetti, the Emperor Palpatine pipeline of college or just football coaches? It goes Belichick, Saban, Kurt Signetti. But those guys were just kind of like straight faced the whole time. Like, Signetti will like have this side eye, like, kind of smirk that he'll throw in there. That is, like, you can see, like, again, like, obviously, like, there is that, with any of these guys, that pride and that happiness in the performance. But then he's like, oh yeah, no, great coach type stuff. We gotta lock in and be better, even if we're playing great. Versus, every great, like we say, every great coach will overemphasize the bad things. That's actually how it goes. If you're playing bad, a coach is like, actually, you know what? We're actually not playing too bad out there. We just made a couple of poor plays, and we'll get out and try it better in the second half. And if you're playing really well, the coach goes the complete opposite. It's just like, no, actually, we're playing terrible. I can't believe we're up by 28. Like, we shouldn't even be in this spot with that play and the way the O-line, just like all this stuff. Like, we really got to clean this up. This is terrible. It is what it is. But, hey, yo, we'll see what they clean up in the second half. Pause for Oregon. It's not looking great. Maybe see what the transfer portal has in the next next 20 minutes for this team. I don't know, but I guess we'll take a quick break and we'll be back for the second half. Though I don't know if we'll pay attention to it. We might go a couple different directions. I don't know. You'll just have to stay tuned and see. I guess Philly has pulled away from Orlando as well, too. Does that happen when Embiid got hurt and went out of the game? I'm not sure. But Maxey with 29, one of the league's leading scorers, will definitely just be that for this year. Ayo, not a hot take. But, I mean, you see, even on a night like this, 10 for 21 and he's still at 29, it's those type of nights. We're not saying that, again, going forward that Maxey wouldn't be this level of player. Like, to some degree, he has been this level of player the entire time. It's just been, again, that usage, their reliance on Maxey this year is going to be a smidge higher. And you would hope as well, too, that you could bring in, obviously, some extra guys to take that reliance away. Edgecombe continues to get better. And I was seeing some posts about comping him to Jimmy Butler, which, high standard, obviously. You obviously are throwing out the great names for the comps, but it did seem like, and if you cut the highlights in the right way, you can obviously prove your point, but the vibe was there. And that was, kind of a fun comp again for that peak level where Jimmy Butler is obviously taking teams to finals. Like, not to say that, not to count out Edgecombe, but a 40-point triple-double against LeBron in the finals is obviously, just or against the other best player in the league in the finals is, obviously just a difficult achievement for anybody to accomplish. I don't know if anybody else has, but, Jimmy Butler with the pace of play and the defense and the sort of not need to necessarily, be the number one option on offense every night. It does make him that perfect complement to Maxey in that way where, if you're just feeding him corner threes, he can do that, or he can maybe in the future, there'll be that continued off the dribble stuff that happens as well too. And then just his athleticism getting to the basket. But then what that means for him defensively, as he's able to potentially dominate that, continue to be really, really good on that end of the court as well too. I don't know if he will have the playmaking capabilities of Butler. Again, you kind of see him more as a perimeter shooter at this point, but you could see maybe the same pace with how he moves with the basketball could be similar for sure. So, again, the overall vision and finding guys, setting guys up for plays. Again, Jimmy Butler's like an actual point guard. You can run offenses through him. He's carrying that Heat team to the finals in a way. So, again, little bit of a different level. But, man, I don't know. Bulls Jimmy Butler? Like, could he be Bulls Jimmy Butler? They were comparing him to Sixers Jimmy Butler. It was like, welcome back Jimmy Butler. But, it's VJ Edgecombe instead. But, maybe it's more like Bulls Jimmy Butler
version, but Sixers get Jimmy Butler back. Either way. So Sixers fans, would you take Jimmy Butler back, but if it was the Bulls version? I'm sure they would say yes. You know, we just loved having Jimmy Butler on the team. We would take him back if it's this Warriors version. Hey, yo, is that the move? Embiid for Jimmy Butler? Call it in? Are we giving out other ideas? I don't know. We'll go to halftime. Let Nick Saban talk about his guy, Kurt Signetti. Shout out Desmond Howard, 97. Go Blue. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back. Second half will be underway shortly. We will probably actually get to focus on our NFL player rankings quite a bit. If you can see the score, if you've been following along. But I mean, we do have to continue on something that we were passionate about. Ayo, real quickly here. Whoa, pause. Before we went to halftime, we were talking about, if you're just now joining us here on the REMINGTOM Pod, WFAM, the REMINGTOM Pod on YouTube, we were talking about Sicario Dave Salato before we went to break because it was 35-7 going into halftime, and we were talking about Denise Villeneuve. We were talking about a lot of things, of course, as it is, but we were talking about Denise Villeneuve. But we said, of course, he did not direct the second one. I don't believe, if I've already ranted about Dave Salato in a past live stream, then I guess it is what it is. It's gonna be it's gonna be on Tubi for a month, so probably not gonna be the last time that we mention it in the month of January. But I was looking up who directed it, because, like, who followed in the footsteps of Denise Villeneuve and did such a great job. Obviously, Kalen DeBoer right now at Alabama, people talking about him versus Saban, anybody versus Saban, having to carry on that mantle. But what is the next iteration of that going to look like? And, again, is Dave Salato, does the quality of all that stuff hit the original Sicario, whatever? We're not sitting here debating the Oscar worthiness of Salato over the original Sicario, but the enjoyability is definitely there. And again, just having to carry what Villeneuve, because he is just a very expansive filmmaker as well too. So I don't know if you have to pick somebody that is going to stylistically achieve those types of things. This might be way too much of a rant for Dave Salato. It is what it is. But I wanted to shout him out. Stefano Salima, and again, was not necessarily a name that I had at the top of the list as, like, here's, like, one of the fun directors that we have right now. But right now, I guess as of looking his name up recently, we are locked in, because I didn't realize that he had also directed Without Remorse as well too with MBJ. So I mean, just between those two is like a super fun discography there. Let's see how many movies in total he has been a part of directing. I guess there's some TV stuff in here as well. But we got 11 TV directing credits as well, and quite a bit. So maybe some international series in there. Gamora, 10 episodes, 8.6 on IMDb. We got 2 episodes of a 000 miniseries, 8.1. I guess 4 episodes of Monsters of Floor and 6.4. Not as critically received as the others. But 12 movie directing credits in total. Red Hand, or maybe just a larger movie in just a movie that we haven't heard of. Either way, large or small, pause. But Legend of the Red Hand, another short film, 2018. And then Sicario, Dave Salato in 2018, Without Remorse in 2021, and Adagio in 2023, which I believe is a Netflix film. So again, I guess the scores for these last two haven't been too great. And maybe we need to throw this one on as well too. I can't believe I didn't think about adding it to the watch list. Am I signed in? Okay, I'm not signed in. I guess I'll add it to the watch list a little later. But I mean, if I was just like drafting plots of movies of directors, any director that we like, we could also just draft the plots of their movies. There's probably going to be a correlation there. But, and again, he's only got now 3 movies, American movies, I guess if we're just being a basic movie fan that we're going to, and I don't want to refer to it as pro level cinema, because that would just, again, that would display our lack of knowledge in the overall scope of the game. But if just to basically refer to it, it's like, since going pro, he's had like 3 real, big production type movies that he has done as well too. I guess we could go back and check the timing of those TV. So he did some TV and then moved over to do Dave Salato, and then Without Remorse after that. But you see, Dave Salato is like the only theatrical movie that he has released at this point as well too. So there is just an overall, I guess, the hype around his types of movies. Like, I guess, not say that there hasn't been hype, but studios being able to generate hype for a theatrical release. Again, not say that, again, like Netflix wouldn't push a movie, but, it's going to be different. It's going to be different. And again, not to get into that whole debate as well too. Obviously, are we pro theater at the end of the day? I guess I want to say who isn't, but I guess there are some people out there who are. Unfortunately, they're in charge of some businesses. But this one as well too looks like
maybe if our Netflix wasn't as internationally tuned, maybe we wouldn't be getting this one in the algorithm. And, again, I don't want to, not to say that it has to be an English level film for him to be, again, directing those, top films, who are we, that's obviously not the correct take. But again, just for what maybe would be receptive, obviously, large, and, we know that wouldn't, obviously, in 2026, I'm sure, you can have a great movie doing all that different stuff. But again, I think hopefully you can try to get to the point of what we're, maybe not, of what we're trying to say. But either way, again, the plots of his movie sound great. Tangled up in blackmail and crooked cops, son of a former gangster seeks out his father's old friends, who risks everything to save him. Just vague enough. But as long as there's, gangsters and stuff involved, like, it seems like, the subject matter is always spot on. Obviously, Without Remorse and Dave Salato are top notch. But his upcoming films are pretty interesting. And I can't say that we're like, obviously, like the Adam Schefter or the Woj or like Brian Windhorst for IMDb. Like, hey, have you seen this movie? Like, coming up. But maybe in 2026 we'll try to claim that territory. I guess it's much easier to find on mobile. Let's see, where's like the upcoming projects here that we have, because he had 2 movies that were upcoming for the for the future. as right now, that's how time works anyways. And that did seem interesting. I guess it'd be interesting if it's like the release date 2019. Interesting. Would have to go check that out. So yeah, wait a second here, let's go the filter and see what we have. Exclude, no. Include, okay. See also years. Yeah, I don't know why it's excluding those specifically. Do we refresh the page, chat? Old man move. Obviously, if we refresh the page, it'll appear. But I don't know why it wouldn't be available the same way on desktop, where we're just totally missing it. It is what it is. This is how you know you're really into an old man move. Obviously, the old people are not going to be happy hearing us say this. Oh, here we are. Okay, we probably just had the filters set wrong. So he's got a Ferrari TV series in here. So Ford versus Ferrari a couple years ago, but he's director of a Ferrari TV series. But the first movie we've got is called Sugar Bandits. Again, so if you just were, the Sicario Dave Salato director is directing a movie about a former special forces soldier joins an elite vigilante squad aiming to wipe out the drug trade in Boston, but he soon learns that things are not what they seem. In 10 years, lock it in. Hey, yo. I mean, what rapper can we get in this movie? Like, this was just, this is set up for some perfect fun casting. I guess we have no casting for this. Should we cast this movie? This might be next on the Tubi live stream. Stefano Salima, shout out, Mr. Salima. Call into the next live stream and we'll help you with some casting for this movie. Rest in peace. We were watching Cradle to the Grave the other day. Shout out DMX. This sounds like a perfect DMX movie. Hey, yo. I guess, shout out. Obviously, who doesn't want to see him in more things? But there was also this documentary on Tubi. I'm not a documentary guy, but it was one of those things where, if you open the app and then you're just like hovering over a selection for long enough, it'll just autoplay that selection. So I guess it was hovering over this documentary recommendation called Backstage. I guess we were also watching, I don't know if we mentioned this, but we were watching State Property with Beanie Siegel and Memphis Bleak and Damian Dash. So, again, we just, I guess, need the rapper casting in a movie not for it to get that Tubi qualification. Can we get 50 Cent in this movie? I forget what other movie we saw him in a trailer for. I was like, wait a second, 50 Cent's in this movie? I guess, do we just have to add every movie that 50 Cent is in on the watch? This is just a blank, okay, I guess if 50 Cent's in it, it is what it is. But, he might be a potential. I don't know if this is the Den of Thieves training that crosses over here. But, we might have to do a little research and see. We get our guy Joey in some movies. He has been in the TV shows as well too, but if he were doing the movie crossover, I guess let's check the other one as well too and see. I think it was special forces related as well. But again, you get special forces and, oh, what's going on? There maybe is a bigger plot involved that we don't know about. Is there going to be like some, him have to take out the forces type of, the police forces type of action scene? Hey, yo, I guess it's just more the one man mission is more the fun thing. I guess, hey, yo, it can be whatever. But this is a CIA team is dispatched to investigate a Central African warlord believed to have supernatural abilities as part of a growing political religious movement. And stars Keke Palmer. That's all we know at this point. That's all we need. Rumored to star Keke Palmer. So, shout out our guy, director Stefano Salima, because he is cooking up some heat right now in the pre-production. The action thriller genre looks like maybe in good hands. But these are the types of these, do we call them B-level action movies? But they are, if they're done well, they really are just A-level action movies. Again, I think Sicario, there was a level of, prestige for what that movie is. Again, referencing Nolan and Villeneuve at this point especially. But, throughout their careers, even if they were, of course, crossing over into more, IP, obviously Villeneuve now, Nolan with The Dark Knight, or some of the action stuff, they can still get that critical acclaim for it. But you get a movie like, Rebel Ridge, or, I don't know if The Gray Man, is The Gray Man even a B-level action movie? I'm not sure. Does that fall in, where is Cradle to the Grave or is it on the same tier as like Cradle to the Grave? Or is it more, again, Heat would be like A+, Sicario A+, not to say like Dark Knight Rises is B+, I feel like Dark Knight represents the trilogy. Obviously it's an A+ trilogy with an A+ movie in the Dark Knight. I guess The Departed is probably like that's pushing, again, Scorsese's gonna be prestige. I guess The Town. But again, all those movies that are like, okay, is that B level? But it's just really, really good. So it's probably A level as well too. I guess speaking of the sequels, Sicario, Day of Salado. It is just some of the sequels. No Time to Die. I'm not sure. Again, my franchises are what we get nowadays, so it is what it is. Those are the movies that are going to be the movies that we're watching in our times. But yeah, I guess Salima's got the original movies as well too, which I guess is fun for both of these. Doesn't seem like it's at this point, not Gods Unknown 2, not Sugar Bandits 4. I guess we'll be there in the 2030s. So shout out. I can't wait for Salima directing his spin-off TV series of Sugar Bandits. That's going to be great. But the original movie experience is going to be fun as well. I guess the part we don't know, just in general, do we know if theaters are going to be open? Hey, yo, we're taking a stance. We're going to get signs, chat. We'll be outside the Netflix headquarters with signs. Keep the theaters open. Keep the theaters open. We'll get some chants started. But yeah, we got to see these movies on the big screen. I want to see the special effects and what's going on here. That's going to be hopefully a fun, well executed. There could be some good room for some CGI there. Well placed, but maybe some the grittiness of Sugar Bandits. Sugar Bandits does give you a little bit of like a comedic vibe to the movie. So, he hasn't necessarily directed movies that are comedic in tone per se, but again, those just real sleek, intense. Oh, Extraction. Extraction is the perfect B-level action movie. Again, like the John Wick franchise grosses too much at this point, and the second half is underway. Yeah, we've only run like, did we run one play? Okay, Indiana run one play. Oregon did get a stop, so second and 13. Shout out. We'll see if they can win the second half. Can they take pride in their performance? I'm not sure, but Extraction, a movie like that, is the perfect B-level action movie. That would have been a great theater movie as well too. That's a Netflix original, so maybe there's a chance that Netflix is carrying the B-level. We shouted out Rebel Ridge as well too. I'm sure that Netflix, we're sitting here making the argument for the theatrical stuff. They're like, see, you can love all these movies on streaming too. But those types of, again, is it gonna win the awards? Is it like the most? Does it have even those extra plot points? Because again, Heat, of course, like we're saying, action movie. The Town, action movie, but there's a little bit more expansive stuff going on there as well too. You've got a kidnapping, and you've got, I guess, just the general politics of the area going on in Extraction to some degree.
but it's not really the point of the movie. It's more the point of like what is happening in the story, if that makes sense. Where, you know, again, like, and maybe Michael Mann just, you know, again, it just takes a long time to make his movies as well. But he's like, you know, again, like Pacino's going to have his stuff that he's going to be dealing with, you know, again, to reference The Town, like it's going to be, this stuff going on with Charleston. The Dark Knight's got like, you know, a lot of political stuff that Nolan's sprinkling in there as well too, with some of the power dynamics. So they're taking on these extra stories, but it's just like, okay, it's just like, you know, we've got some stuff, but it's just like, yeah, it's just like set up. Here's a kidnapping, and Chris Hemsworth's got to go in and save somebody. It's like, you know, John Wick, that first one, even the second one, I guess, you know, it's all of them to some degree. It's like just action plots. It's just, you know, again, they just kind of became big. And at this point, it's just a universe as well too. So it's expanded outside of just pause. You know, like we're saying, sort of the B-level action movies. And I was going to say, you know, we would get more of them back in the day, but I guess that's the point as well too. And maybe we're just not keeping up with the newer releases on streaming services. Really, that's probably what it is, because I'm sure Netflix is doing a great job of at least having them. They're dropping the movies. You know, again, I guess the quality and the originality as well too. We'll have to see. But shout out, I didn't know we were going to put Selima on our watch list for 2020. I guess I don't know if these movies are 2026, but just our director watch list, Stefano Selima. We'll see what the filmography looks like here in a couple years. But, you know, again, if you're starting off Without Remorse and Sicario, like, these are movies that obviously, you know, we've seen these movies. Without Remorse, you know, that one again is tough because of the Prime thing. So, you know, hopefully that has like a Tubi run or that secondary run where it's able to hit those other streaming services as well too. But I don't know if I necessarily, you know, see that. I'm trying to think. There have been some other, I guess, but it's like if you get like Barbie or something on Tubi, you know, again, those movies have theatrical releases. Those movies have TV time. You know, I don't think you see even like Without Remorse playing on cable. But again, Sicario, you know, theatrical release, all that, you know, different stuff. So it makes the rounds on the streaming services. It'll pop up on Roku channel every now and then. But yeah, you know, those are just like two, like, oh yeah, fun action movies. You know, those are going to be watched a lot. Those types of movies, you know, great working with, you know, at this point as well too, like we're saying, Benicio del Toro, Josh Brolin, Michael B. Jordan. Like that's a movie that you would just go back and watch. Like we're saying, on Tubi, you're just like, I just want to watch a Michael B. Jordan movie. I just want to watch Michael B. Jordan in an action role, do cool stunts, you know, cool tactical stuff, simple action plot to some degree, but you know, for the most part, like pretty standard beats. So, Mendoza up the middle, he's spinning, Chad. He fumbles. He fumbled. Indiana was able to recover. So again, just the breaks obviously not going Oregon's way. Is that Coogan? Coogan once again stepping in and saving Mendoza. And Mendoza, you know, again, maybe he's the Matt Ryan play style, but the Kirk Cousins personality. Hey, yo. Because the head shake and the hand clap, I don't even think we need him mic'd up. But, you know, you get Kirk Cousins mic'd up. Yo, gosh darn it. Shoot. But, you know, you get, I think maybe Mendoza in the same type of way. Mendoza, maybe that's, you know, I was going to say, does the league like that? Hey, yo, you know, we tread lightly. But at least, you know, you don't have to worry about that. I guess just Phillip Rivers. Is Phillip Rivers a no-swear quarterback as well, too? You know, it's rare. There's a couple. But I guess at this point, maybe there's nobody. I don't know who's keeping up the no-swear thing. I mean, you know, Mahomes has the voice for it. Hey, yo. Mahomes has the voice for a gosh darn it, you know, type of vibe. But I don't know if that's actually the case. We'll have to see. So I guess it's Mendoza's the next guy that keeps that lineage. But what? No. I was gonna say, wasn't he swearing on live TV? We wish he would have a little bit, but he was doing this is the best freaking team in the whole. Did he say this is the best flipping team? He better have at least said freaking team. Hey, yo. I think he might have said, did he say this is the best flipping team in the whole world? I mean, again, shout out. It's endearing in some ways, but also you're just like, bro, we're all adults here. I get it. It is live TV. You know, the respect to that is, you know, we'll salute the professionalism. Shout out. You know, I guess we'll respect the professionalism is maybe the cleaner way to say it these days. But, you know, it's endearing, like we're saying. But also, it's just okay to be emotional about a victory and about a great run and about reviving a school legacy. Wide open in the end zone, 42-7. And the thing about Cignetti is he will you know, I'm sure he takes all, like we're saying, we're talking, I mean, did he have an earbud in for the early part of the live stream? We're sitting here talking about how Dan Lanning could make a run as a great coach as well, too. And he's like, let me show these guys what's going on. He will pour on the score. He will not let up. He will keep going. So, you know, just the pace of play at this point, again, the mentality, I'm sure, if Signetti's locked in, it doesn't mean they're going to get to 60. But, hey, yo, I mean, the score, it could not stop. It just could, you know, keep not stopping at this point. I don't know why it would. And, you know, Oregon's offense hasn't even had a chance to get the ball in this third quarter. That was a pretty good sustained drive there to start the half. But, you know, with the way, obviously they're moving a little bit, but just with their inability to complete drives, you know, hey, yeah, we'll see if they've cleaned it up here in the second half. But yeah, just that type of momentum to start the quarter. Again, you talk about winning the second half, all that different stuff. Like, you just kind of deflate everything, pause like right away. And yes, you know, you're not necessarily going to cut it super close, but at least if you make it 35-14, you know, we've seen that before. You know, I don't know how much we've seen it in college, probably a little bit, but, you know, I think of, as a Colts fan, you think of Colts Tampa on Monday night. You know, again, Manning in his bag, Marvin Harrison, that's a great Colts team. But the Oregon team maybe gets a little bit of life. If they see 35-14, you go, okay, we get a stop, 21-35. And then at least if we get to 21-35, you know, we start thinking, you know, okay, this gets a little bit more realistic. But just from time as well, too. You know, you'd have to get a 3 and out, and then hopefully a quick score. Hopefully it would be 21-35 with about, you know, maybe 9 minutes in the third quarter. It's a little risky for that, but, you know, or, you know, a little too soon for that. But maybe you're hoping it's that way. You know, if you're 24-35 entering the fourth quarter, again, I think if Indiana had grown that lead over the course of the game, you'd be like, you know, it's them starting to dominate. But if you close it to that, or if it's 28-38, you know, hold them to a field goal, but you put up, I guess that'd be 3 quick touchdowns. You know, it'd be pretty impressive, but, you know, I guess it would cause a turnover there as well, too. You never know. You know, three touchdowns is a lot. 3 touchdowns, you know, 2 and 3, we're saying one difference, but obviously we get it. It's a drive. You know, these things take time. They take place, potentially. So not unrealistic to think that one could be a big deal breaker there. Hey, do we just have still Salima's filmography pulled up in the background? Shout out. And I'm assuming Ferrari's going to be good as well, too. Ferrari dedicated his genius to the mission of building the fastest racing car. But after a trail of tragedy and torment along the way, he rebuilt his racing team, selecting 5 up-and-coming stars of motorsports to fight for victory. So it's a little like Ford versus Ferrari crossed with F1, almost. I don't know if that was the prompt for ChatGPT. Give me a show that combines Ford versus Ferrari and F1. It's like, are those the same thing? I don't care. I want a show. Either way. So country of origin, Italy? Shout out. Can't wait. This has the vibes of an HBO show. I don't know if he's just working for all the streaming services at this point. Hopefully one of these is just a Tubi original. Tubi, this needs to be... See, this is what we would be doing if we were director of talent, director of content. I don't know, you know... Director of what? Director of something over at Tubi. Is that a good official title? Director of something? But we're trying to get Salima. We're trying to get the... You know, I guess the fact that we've got Keke Palmer just on casting for a movie, like give me the movie with Keke Palmer in it. You know, seemed like that played out pretty well the last time. Seems like you know, obviously she's a great actor, so you got to give her credit. And if you can lock that down as what are we saying, chat? We're just throwing out words over here carelessly. If you can lock down a movie with an amazing talent like Keke Palmer is what we're using condensed phrasing there with some sloppy, some sloppy English. But what we're saying is, if we can, instead of saying, lock that down, if we can have a great movie with some great talent already on the casting list, then maybe that'd be the one to try to get on Tubi. But I don't know what the budget is for a Tubi original these days. It might not be, maybe that's the next prompt for ChatGPT. What's a Tubi original? I guess we could probably just look that up. What's the most expensive Tubi original? Let's see. How much are they willing to drop for what's the most expensive? Come on, computer, you listen to everything. You got to know what's going on. What's the most expensive Tubi original? How much does Tubi cost? How much did Tubi cost? I mean, shout out to Tubi, chat. Not to
just drop in a free ad, but we know that Tubi's free. Oh, Oregon with the big play. Did they just run back the kickoff? I don't know if that was the kickoff or the first play of the possession, but hey, at least some life, at least some energy. They get inside the 5, so you would have liked to score, just the certainty of that. Now you have to run some more plays. Oh, no. Oh, 71-yard rush, so that was a run. Shout out to Hill for, finally being able to at least give momentum a little bit on a drive to the Ducks offense. And like I said, if you get a stop and score and whatever quickly like this, this is the type of thing that you would want to happen like 12 minutes into the third quarter maybe. And then you're scoring a little bit sooner, and then it's 35-14 like we're saying. You're like, okay, here's the roadmap back. More quick fire to the corner, 1v1, but pass interference on the defensive back. So the refs are going to help him out a little bit as well, too. Hey, wait a second. The most expensive Tubi original, Waterworld. Whoa, wait a second. Is Waterworld in 1995? Is that a Tubi original, chat? Oh, Microsoft Bing says it is. Hey, is this just a diss track to Waterworld? Do we have to Google next when was Tubi invented? Maybe it was in 1995. Is Tubi like HBO? Or so it's like Tubi was just I guess, HBO was not underground, but, Tubi's just underground all these years. And all of a sudden just explodes. Pause. But most expensive Tubi original is Waterworld. 1997 sci-fi film produced for an estimated $175 million. I don't know if that is totally correct, to be honest, but apparently that is the answer. Oh, wait a second. We got a touchdown for Oregon. McDonough with a little bit of excitement in his voice. He gives it away. So there we go. Hopefully the kicker does not does not come short this time on the extra point. You would assume not. But yeah, shout out to Kevin Costner, a groundbreaking actor in a lot of ways, but we did not know he was on Tubi back in 1995. So I don't know. Is there a better way to phrase this? I think that's pretty clear. But yeah, apparently this is all right. How does it will star in Tubi's first original, The Z Suite? Okay, so wait a second. Let's see what kind of information the AI is pulling out of this article. That is not correct. As a streaming service, because Tubi cashes in on the value of free. Okay, wait a second. So what do we got here? Streamflation, subscription prices, streamflation. Interesting. Nielsen data showed that May was Tubi's most watched month ever. Wait, was this May 25? May 24. Ooh, I bet May 25 was even more than that as well, too. Streamer edged out Disney Plus. Ooh, Tubi already taking belts. Pause back in the day. Third quarter revenue grew 22%. What does this have to do with Waterworld? Escalating prescription costs. Oh, wait a second. Nothing in here about Waterworld? Although Tubi had a wide range of live streaming channels, 90% of its viewing audience on demand younger viewers. Tubi has built a mass appeal product, sci-fi, horror, all kinds of different stuff. Blaxploitation, shout out. They're covering a lot of territory there on Tubi. Tubi has an array of vintage hit networks. One such obscurity belief, so just this random show getting a shout out in here. But the series from Gravity director Alfonso Cuarón. Cuarón directed a series called Believe. Oh, it was gone after 13 episodes. Oh, I don't know if they should be giving it too much of a shout out there. But hey, Cuarón, not bad. You got to give him his props. If things stay on course, Tubi looking good. A couple years ago, we know things are still going well after that. Starting with low-budget 2021 thriller Twisted House Sitter. Whoa. What kind of low-budget thriller is Twisted House Sitter? Hey, IT, look that up on Tubi real quick. Throw that on the background. We'll see what's going on there. We might have to do a little live research and see what's happening. But the company has produced 200 titles. Okay, with such successes comes the ability to attract higher profile talent. Okay, this begun in a Tubi original film, The Thicket, a dark western starring Peter Dinklage and Juliette Lewis. Imagine. Be like, we can get Peter Dinklage. We finally made it. We finally got enough to get Peter Dinklage and Juliette Lewis. I mean, big get. Hey, shout out Elf, all-time classic. Helps take that movie to another level when he shows up. But Lewinson acknowledges that there was some explaining required to get Dinklage to sign on with the project when they met 2 years ago. I had to get him comfortable with what we were building. Oh, okay. Interesting way to phrase that. But as Tubi expanded in the presence of the TV landscape, I think it got easier. The Gen Z suite. There's a gentleman on Reddit who actually has a spreadsheet with a synopsis of all the horror movies. Okay, so that gave us none of the information that we really wanted there, to be honest. So we could maybe try to find the budget for Twisted House Sitter. What is the budget for Twisted House Sitter? Or The Thicket? What is the budget for The Thicket? If this movie is on IMDb or Watch Mojo, yeah, or like boxoffice.com, it's got to be there. At least it would be a starting point. It's got a Roger Ebert review. So yeah, there's got to be some legit stats about this that we can find. The first groundbreaking Tubi original. I can't believe we haven't seen this. This has got that perfect Tubi artwork. That Tubi original logo, very, very prominent. Shout out there. I don't know if this director is a real name or not, but kind of getting a little bit crazy there. Hey, yo. We're going too fast with the research. The computer's spazzing. We don't want to lose the live stream. Second half. I guess, hey, yo. We'd hate to... Oh, they went for 2 and got it. 15-42. So only 3 more scores if they go for 2 each time. See, Dan Lanning, chat. This is why he's a great coach. You can use the math to his advantage. So the fans, there's some good reviews there. We're liking it so far. But no box office information, apparently, for The Thicket. Tech specs, 1 hour 45. Yeah, nothing for financials. So Tubi's burying the money right now. They're probably somebody's money laundering money through Tubi by making movies like The Thicket. It would really make a lot of sense if Tubi was a money laundering service, because it's Tubi means it's too good to be true. Hey, yo, is that what it's short for? Too good to be true. You can get all these movies for free. Something's going on. Maybe Sicario is actually a Tubi movie, and not about other things, but Tubi is it addicting as some of the stuff in Sicario? I don't know. Oh, Indiana, the run game. Oh, big play, missed tackles. There's a flag, maybe a holding, and shout out a defensive back able to run the running back down from a pretty good distance. The running back broke a couple tackles, so that gives him an opportunity there to make up some ground. And yeah, the holding is gonna bring the play back. We'll see how impactful it was to them springing the run loose there. But hey, yo, I guess, is that the most yards in a play tonight for Indiana as well, too? A couple of big plays in the third quarter. Shout out. No, we got an Oregon player on the ground injured, so that's not great. And the Indiana offensive lineman, the Indiana home crowd is not really liking the call. Hey, yo, you would expect them to, of course, not be fans, but I don't know if you assume who the call's going to be on, maybe they said it as well, too. Yeah, you do have the one, is it 78, 74, holding the Oregon lineman. He's holding him close, chat. It is what it is. You got to cherish the playoff moments. It might be his last. But apparently, as the defender's trying to break away, that is, do we have to pause that? I don't know. Probably. But apparently, as the defender is trying to turn up field for a tackle, that is not allowed. So, 1st and 20. Oh, chat. Hey, yo, you got to give credit for Oregon having to go into Indiana. Oh, wait a second. It's the Sugar Bowl. It's really impressive. The Indiana fan base. It's a football school, chat. Hey, yo. Who? Larry Bird? Speaking of Hoosiers, Gene Hackman? What is going on here? No, Kurt Signetti. Reggie Miller, chat? Oh, no. Is Reggie Miller losing his status in Indiana athletics? I guess, what even is the hierarchy at this point? Reggie Miller might be number 1. Honestly, which would be crazy. Shout out. We're not trying to disrespect the career of Peyton Manning like that. Peyton Manning brought a championship to Indianapolis. The Alley Cats are poised for a great season. So I'm sure that they'll be, right there as well, too, adding their names to the list. But, I think at this point, you could make a case that Reggie Miller is the number 1 Indiana City athlete of all time. I guess, again, Larry Bird, if we're going maybe guys from the state as well. Again, if there's another obvious one that we're missing, then, hey, yo, I guess we'll have to do the research and actually get the list of names. But it seems like, at least from a basketball standpoint, we're probably pretty safe with assuming Larry Bird is the guy. So 2nd and 17, Mendoza able to get a good chunk of it back. It's going to be 3rd and manageable. They get the underneath route a little bit farther downfield than maybe you'd like. Oh, another flag? No, okay. I think the fans are still just riled up. It didn't look like Mendoza was moving too much down the field, and I thought again, the fans were just kind of starting to make noise about something there. But nope, it's 3rd and 4. We'll see. The stop obviously necessary for Oregon here. I'm not saying I didn't consider the 2 point. Well, I didn't consider the 2 points, and I'm not saying that that's gonna, re-talk me into them getting back into this game. Oh, we've got a helmet ripped off an Indiana player. Mendoza on the rollout finds Surratt. I mean, I don't know if it's too easy to compare Surratt to Mike Evans because they both wear number 13 and, both a little bit taller, receivers as well too. But there is some of that same down the field playmaking ability. Oh, it's Coogan, chat. Ayo, speaking of Coogan, he's all over the place tonight. His helmet, Ayo, him making blocks. It is what it is. But the ability to win one-on-one, and then you see him, of course, making plays across the field as well too, where Mike Evans could actually be that number one receiver. You can run some actual offense through him. He can be out there actually running real routes, though you might not necessarily like, oh, is he Calvin Johnson in that type of way? But or like DeAndre Hopkins or something like that. You'd think maybe is DeAndre Hopkins the more complete receiver, and maybe at the peak of his powers, I'm sure there's the case there for sure. But the full skill set from Mike Evans is definitely right there with all those guys. So Surratt's a name for sure that is jumping off the page. I mean, it's easier to focus on the offense, so I'm sure the defensive guys were just not paying attention like we should be to those names as well. But they are starting to cut to the brothers, so we'll see. Do we get the brother in this game? Fourth quarter, maybe the last 6 minutes. If they get to 50, if it's like 50 to 15, I mean, I imagine at that point with like a couple minutes left, you'd at least let Alberto get a drive or two. Shout out, get the Mendoza, just get the entire family involved. The Mendoza brothers, chat, have they been called that yet? Do we need a? I guess they probably have been called that a couple times, seeing as that's what they are. But I mean, what's the name? We should know the name. What's the name of the Netflix That's obviously what they are, right? The Netflix documentary people. What's the name of those Netflix documentary brothers? The Mendoza brothers. If we search for the Mendoza brothers, who pops up, chat? Hey, yo, pause. Who do we get as a result? Is it Mendoza or Mendoza? I don't remember exactly what we're looking for there. I guess the fact that it doesn't autocorrect maybe shows that we're either right or that they have just taken over as well. So yeah, if we go Mendoza brothers, it is the quarterbacks. So we'll see. Mendoza brothers case, Mendoza brothers Netflix, Menendez. That's what it is. Not the not what are the names, chat? Menendez. Not the Mendoza brothers. The Menendez brothers. So we'll see. Likely Netflix documentaries for either. Because you imagine just this Indiana season alone is a Netflix documentary. You imagine once Netflix buys 30 for 30, once they buy Disney, and 30 for 30 is on Netflix. You imagine the first Netflix 30 for 30 is going to be about the Indiana Hoosiers. Imagine, chat. It's called Hoosiers. But the irony is it's a football movie instead of a basketball movie. Ha. See, and is that the storyline? Indiana, the basketball state. The football team that took over the basketball state. The 2025-2026 Hoosiers. I don't know if we have to go to the chat GPT for the voiceover on this one. It might be a little too new for it to cook up. But I think that is the direction that we are headed for this makeover. I guess we have to remember, again, this is not the national title. There's still a game left. The playoffs are a little bit longer pause. There is a more difficult path. There is more games to play. So the Miami matchup is still in the way for them in the national title. I guess Indiana is in the way for Miami being back in the national title landscape as well too. But for them to complete, I mean, again, just this season alone, just them being in the national title, them being this perfect, them being this dominant through so many games is already, and the turnaround just in general from what they've been is already documentary stuff. I mean, the tragic poetry of them not being able to close it out would be interesting for the documentary as well too. But of course, the win would be the Disney movie storybook ending that you would expect as well. And we've got this Knicks versus Suns game, New York versus Phoenix NBA game on as well too to complete the setup. And anytime there is like a speed painter for a halftime performance, I think that is an underrated halftime performance. It works really well, of course, in the random event that you're watching the League Pass in arena live stream. Again, it's not like you see the halftime show on TV. So it playing well to the camera is maybe not the larger audience that you'd want, though I'm sure you still get more broadcast for more
viewers for a local broadcast than you would in arena, still comparatively. But either way, I'm assuming the Jumbotron makes up for it. It works. I think it's a good move. A speed painter, it's always cool. You always are kind of like, what are they starting off with? And then they've all, of course, got their own unique styles as well too for the end result. You can kind of see the person. Pause. Can you say the? I guess maybe in this case we got a person forming. It could be, I guess, anything that obviously they're painting up. But when it starts to become recognizable, of what maybe the end vision actually is, or to, of course, the person watching it becomes recognizable of, oh, this is what he's going for. That's always a fun moment as well, too. And I always kind of underrated, like, the suits, because they have the suits that they wear for multiple paintings. And, of course, they get that paint splatter on them. It's not, I guess... Once Chalamet wears a paint splatter suit, then it becomes high fashion. It is what it is. So I don't want to write it off as not high fashion. I don't know if, again, it's a look I would say, hey, draft night, I'm going to the NBA draft, get me a paint splatter suit, maybe something on the interior, on the lining would be maybe in that vibe. But, for what it is, as as part of the art piece in general, is this, random sort of canvas that they have and this suit that they wear for all their paintings. It is just a fun part of the aesthetic as well, too. Hey, yo, chat, even though it's as recognizable and as great as it is, hey, yo, I should know probably who it is, honestly. It's a player. I mean, not a hot take, because we are, of course, at halftime of an NBA game. But I wish I knew what player it was. Hey, yo, maybe we need to know more players? I'm not sure. Do we need to get a number on this jersey? I mean, at this point, the picture is fully painted. Maybe he could add in some more details. Maybe there's like a, continued hairline to continue to add on there, or if he just wants the empty space, because he's leaving the empty space for the jersey as well. So if he just leaves the empty space there, it's obviously working in terms of the hairline around the forehead. Oh, here we go. Now we add in sort of a shadow around. Oh, it's Booker, chat. Hey, yo. I don't know why it took the outline around the, can we say around the back of the head? That might be crazy. I don't know why it took that final shadow there to to finally make it seem like Devin Booker. The smile, but yeah, shout out. I mean, hey, yo, the resemblance is uncanny. It's obviously great stuff, but yeah, finish it off. Pause with a little bit of the, oh, and there we go. Fill in the jersey. I guess we get some purple in the mix. Some stripes. I mean, the empty space version of it was pretty cool, where you got kind of the shoulders and the head, pause, like neck area, the three separate entities. Hey, yo. Oh, chat. And we've got a very quick little graphic Valley jersey thing that he puts on there. A fun, quick reveal. I'm sure. Let me check the star. Restart. Testing. Oh, I probably shouldn't mess with it to see if it's still good. I should probably just leave it if that's the case. Pause. So, hey, yo, we are good to go. The Devin Booker painting is complete. It's immaculate. We've got Indiana or Oregon. Oh, no. Oregon's backed up to their own 4. 3rd and 11. Dante Moore fires down the sideline. It's a look. Oh, he got his man. He got his man. Dante Moore. Oh, we lost it. There we go. We're back. We're getting so excited. We're now knocking mic cables loose. It's getting crazy. Oh, no, we can't start getting, again, overly excited for the end result. But at least Oregon, you can feel good for their mentality as a team, their ability to keep fighting through performances. Because, again, as dominant as that first half was, still a long second half, you still got the pride as a team. And you can still have a really great performance. Again, even if it's really, really great, really, really great, unfortunately, might not be enough with how the first half went. It happens. Sometimes it is what it is, even if it's the playoffs. But you still got to at least give yourself, of course, overall a chance, and just, still, again, have that pride for your individuality as a player, for your long-term future, for, how the team remembered, all those different things. Still, I think we all know best to go out there and, try your best and play in the game, even if, of course, it's, maybe not going the best. But, now
Now we're really seeing some life. Indiana injury, you can't say like again, whatever the timing of the injury is there. Oregon with some momentum after that play, could have carried that maybe a little bit over the next couple of plays. So there is that unofficial momentum stopping timeout that you might call if you're a coach anyways. I guess we'll see if Indiana has to use one just as a byproduct of that injury. But that momentum stop is something that, again, Oregon's got to be able to string together a drive here anyways. But could have, obviously you can use everything you can get here. Could have used that extra boost of momentum to continue for the next couple of plays. But hopefully the Indiana player is, of course, okay, and everything's not too serious there. Couldn't quite get a good visual, I guess, not that we need to, but, for information purposes, did not get a good visual on what potentially the injury could be, and they did cut away there, so, hopefully that's not a sign that it's not too bad, I guess. We'll see what happens when we cut back here from the break. But hey, we still haven't even really mentioned the NFL playoffs yet at this point. I've got the player rankings pulled up in front of me. I guess I got the list that I was going to make for the player rankings pulled up in front of me, and it just says Josh Allen on it. Still haven't added any of the other players. Still haven't really been able to decide, maybe is what I was going to say, on who the next best guy is. And it's not for a lack of options per se. Again, there's a familiarity with the legacy of the names when it comes to that Super Bowl winning stuff that maybe we don't have in this playoffs compared to the past. But still, obviously, tons of great talent. First team All-Pro guys, all different stuff. A guy like JSN, like we're saying, could be in the MVP conversation for this year. Maybe he's the second guy that we just would take in a playoff situation in general. Like, legitimately, trying to put together a playoff roster. Again, if we're putting all these playoff guys in a pool and starting a draft, I think Josh Allen's the number one how you look at it, either way. If you can trade your quarterback for Josh Allen, or for starting new teams for the playoffs, every franchise is redrafting in the worst playoff record. Now all of a sudden Josh Allen's on the Panthers. Like, what happened there? But if we're going for a playoff draft and the Panthers have the number one overall pick, how do we not do that, chat? Hey, we could build those teams. That'd be kind of fun. Wait, let me get a quick glance at the records, because we could at least round one and round two, like the 3-man, 4-man, 2 offense, 2 defense, maybe pause combo, could be a fun foundation to see what randomly these teams will be building with. So Oregon breaks off a run here in the first half, and you also have to imagine as well too that, again, Indiana, as much as it'd be like, ooh, Oregon, 15 more points, 30-42, that would be interesting. You would raise an eyebrow. Ooh, fires a pass over the head of everybody. So there you go. At least not to a defender, which is what counts. But Indiana is going to be playing, and not that they should be, but there is going to be a little bit of a different mentality, a human mentality, when you're up by 30-plus points in a game. So again, that score can be cut in half very quickly as well too. I guess you can't get 15 points off of one score. I don't know why I'm thinking, what kind of 2-point conversion are they getting after they score 6? But, either way, if you close the score a little bit, like we're saying, it does, maybe it refreshes the mentality, but still, there's probably going to be an ability to move to midfield and move a little bit past that easier. I mean, the run on 2nd and 10, you see the Indiana defensive line, the Indiana front 7 step up and make the stop on that play. So as they cross midfield, maybe even a little bit more locked in as well. But, and yeah, who was the next player we were ranking for NFL? We said JSN in the mix for sure. Oh, we were looking up the records for the playoff draft. Hey, we can't get sidetracked, chat. We're getting too sidetracked tonight. It is what it is. But, a 15-42 national championship game will do that to you. You got to stay locked in. It's riveting football. 3rd and 9, a handoff right up the middle. Oh, they didn't even see it coming, chat. Pause. What a great play call. Honestly, probably the best play call of the night for Oregon. A run on 3rd and 9 or whatever to make it 4th and 1. So not going to kick the field goal. Shout out Mike Tomlin, still coaching the Steelers. But, and that's a great thing. We love seeing Mike Tomlin in his role.
I like seeing Mike Tomlin as well. Again, hey, we're not Steelers fans, so if they never improve past 500, I guess it ultimately doesn't affect us. But if he keeps his 500 record going and, maybe they're not ultimately the greatest playoff team, I still think that's fun. And I like a guy just being, going for the 500-plus record every year. And there is a difficulty to that. Like, you got to give him some credit. Even if the team is still, like, kind of good. Oh, and Indiana with the stop. They're short. The pitch on 4th and 1. Immediately another suspect play call, chat. Hey, yo. I don't know. Will Stein, not the, like we're saying, the finest game here. But, hey, yo. An insightful game for those coaching moves just in general in 2025, 26. I don't want to get too far sidetracked again from our playoff record, but I do want to look at Indiana coaching staff here and see if they have been committed to other other jobs and maybe would have other focus at this time, because like we're saying, we're knowing the opponent is in that in that scenario right now. So it's not saying there's any immediate articles. Contract deals revealed for Indiana football DC Bryant Haynes. Also, did they just re-sign? Who were Indiana coordinators? Oh, Mike Shanahan. Of course, this Indiana offense is a Shanahan offense. I don't even know. I'm assuming a Mike Shanahan is, I'm assuming there's a relation to Kyle Shanahan and also maybe Mike Shanahan as well too. But it doesn't say that Mike Shanahan is going anywhere. What was the other name as well too? Yeah, Bryant Haynes. So let me do a quick Google search of just the individual names and see what we get over here. Mike Shanahan, Indiana. Ayo, shout out, Mike Shanahan. Obviously, a different result if you search that, and that's fine for now. Shout out, you got to have his time as well. But yeah, it looks like he is committed to Indiana at this point. And then Bryant Hayes as well too. So, everybody out here panicking for head coaches, and these guys are just sitting, waiting, patient. I'm sure they'll get jobs offered one day, but, could go get jobs probably right now. Maybe again, I guess, Mike Shanahan's not going to get the Florida job, but for some reason they weren't going to offer it to him as well too. I don't know why his name wasn't in there. Chat, pause. Why was our guy Mike Shanahan not being brought up as a name in the head coaching cycle? There are some great options as well too, but no disrespect to like the Tulane head coach, but is the Tulane head coach versus the Indiana offensive coordinator? Maybe, Cignetti's getting a lot of credit, but even with Saban getting credit in Alabama, Dabo Sweeney. Hey, yo, who's the other guy? Even with Dabo Sweeney getting credit in Clemson and Kirby Smart in Georgia and all these different scenarios, their coaching staff still get depleted every year, and people hiring off the talent there time and time again. Even Jim Harbaugh at Michigan as well too. Urban Meyer, Ryan Day now. All those guys are replenishing offensive coordinator and defensive coordinators every season. So I don't know why you wouldn't immediately go to Curt Cignetti's staff as a staff to recruit from. Again, even Dan Lanning's staff, we've seen coordinators time and time again get hired off from there. That's not a bad thing. Dan Lanning, like we're saying, is a great coach and is totally capable of, even as a younger head coach, having a great, coaching tree. Hey, yo. But Cignetti, you would imagine that there's there's an ability that his coordinators might have, and his ability to have those coordinators go on to be very successful. I'm assuming that he can have that lineage as well too, especially if his coordinators are Shanahan, would I'm sure help. But could explain the explosive nature, just the overall aggressiveness, the QB friendly design. I mean, they're cheat codes, chat. Hey, yo, the Shanahans, the Mannings, the Shanahans, the Currys. I mean, a sports family rankings, they're right in the mix. But hey, yo, pause. But we got, let's see here, for playoff. If we were doing a playoff draft, imagine. I mean, obviously not fair to the teams. There's really no sense in doing that. But just for the pure chaos of it, would be crazy. Everybody redrafts, and if we're doing the whole league as well too, imagine it would just flip. So all the NFC teams would be drafting higher in the drafts, and then they would get all the good players from the AFC. It is what it is. But yeah, it would be Carolina with the number 1 pick, then Green Bay at 7-1. Carolina, Green Bay. I guess we'd go into the tiebreakers, but the Chargers with the 3rd picks, if the first tiebreaker in our case is playoff seed, AO record, then playoff seed. So Chargers, and then
Oh wait, well no, Steelers. Actually, the Steelers, like we're saying, with talking about Tomlin, they would be the third pick in this random playoff redraft scenario. Josh Allen to the Panthers. So yeah, the Packers with the second pick, you just retake Jordan Love in that case, or do you even go quarterback? Do you just go with one of the other skill guys? Like we're saying, if it is a smaller playoff draft, I guess there's less quarterbacks. So I guess it's probably the same percentage chance, maybe even a less percentage chance actually, that you would get a quarterback. I don't know. But we'd have to have somebody in the chat have to run the numbers. But yeah, Packers. Here, let me write this down real quick, so that way I don't have to keep scanning the order. Steelers would be third, and then I guess then the Chargers. So not a perfect way to select the order in terms of our tiebreakers, but that's how it'll work for now. And then I guess is it just all record base? Because do we do the 2 AFC wild cards at 12-5, or the Bears and Eagles at 11-6? I think it's still record based. So yeah, we'd go, and then like we said, playoff seed. So Eagles, Howie Roseman once again getting a draft pick. That's a little too high. And then the Bears would be next, and then the Texans. Hey yo, so both of them division winners as well too. I don't know if that should benefit or hurt their draft spot. Oh, actually, it would be the Bills with the higher pick because they would be the lower seeded draft team. Oh, do we have PI on? Oh no, we have a no call PI. The fans are booing another no call. So we said earlier, the refs are going to have to help Oregon too. It is what it is. We can't even blame them. I'm sure our own, we want probably a closer end of the fourth quarter situation. Some more drama, some highlight stuff of legend type stuff. So that could still be Indiana closing out a dramatic game. But again, we're a little bit a ways from a dramatic game at this point. I guess a lot of drama in the game, but still a ways from an actual, like we're saying, dramatic game itself. So I guess we have if we're redrafting this officially, then the wild card teams would be tied up as well. So we could have to go through and remember head-to-head tiebreakers. Do we go division winners as the separating factor? So, and I guess now we're way off in tiebreakers. None of this literally makes any sense, but we would go, I guess Bills would still get a pick after the Bears if it's record-based first solely and not based on divisional stuff. Then Bears, then Bills, then Eagles, Bears, Bills, then the 49ers, then San Francisco, then we would have Houston and Philly. We would have to make a call there. We picked the AFC team the first time, so we just picked the NFC team the next time. That's the tiebreaker. Hey yo. So back-to-back NFC West teams, pause, Rams, and then we have the Texans. And somehow the AFC South team gets screwed in this scenario. I don't know how that worked out, but we weren't even attempting that, but just subconsciously we went there. You love to see it. So we got Jacksonville up next. Jacksonville, and then New England, Seattle, Denver. I guess all of them tied. So to tiebreaker it up again, Jacksonville 13-4 stands out with a solo record of their own. And the Patriots, I guess, were the lower seed, so they'd be the higher draft pick. And then Broncos, Seahawks, did they play? I think the Broncos might have got the win there. So we'll give the Seahawks the second to last pick in the redraft. And then the Broncos after that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, wait, are we... no, 14, we're good to go. 7. It's not 8 yet. Hey, yo, we're trying to get the Colts in the playoffs. The Colts and the Vikings would be next? Oh, it'd be close. So, Josh Allen goes to the Panthers. The Packers could take a quarterback. I guess you probably got to take Drake May or Stafford. You got, obviously, Stafford, if you're building a fresh team as well, too. Maybe supply him with some offensive linemen. So we'll respect him, if he wins the MVP. Probably not after, unfortunately, fumbling away some of the last game stuff. But for this redraft scenario, we'll respect him here over Drake May and give him to the Packers. Hey, yo. And then Drake May to the Steelers. Oh, what a turn of events. Rodgers has been great, but I think Steelers fans would look at that probably a little bit more favorably, especially considering the long-term certainty that they would have there. Oh, and the Chargers are up next, which makes me realize that if we're going fresh draft, you know what? The Packers might actually take Herbert, and maybe we have to. I guess we would be considering Herbert kind of second in that player ranking in general, and he's a little. I guess it's like Josh Allen, where it's like you could look at the scenes like, oh, okay, will Josh Allen have a throw that he'll miss every now and then, like he had in the Philly game? But you don't even look at, like, I guess me personally, I don't even look at that Philly throw as like something that it just happened in the season. I don't look at that obvious as like, oh yeah, Josh Allen susceptible to these moments. Again, we have obviously so many of them the other way. I think Herbert is like that as well too. And if blank slate, we're just picking guys. Again, I think it'll form out to be like, oh, look at this team's got more of these guys up on the ring. Obviously that's how it works. But I think the Chargers are right there as well too. Again, obviously not at this point with talent, but obviously 11-6 is a wild card. The AFC is stacked up with teams, so they're still a really good team, even if the other teams around them have really good records as well too. Stroud, Lawrence has been playing better. We definitely can't write Lawrence off. Even Caleb Williams. Like the quarterbacks, hot take, the quarterbacks in the playoffs are playing well. Purdy is also playing well too. But yeah, I think it might have to, Purdy, I don't know. Again, we got the Shanahan factor in there. So maybe we rank coaches as Shanahan number 2. You take Shanahan and then whoever your coach is, but then McVay also gets on the board as well too. But that is, of course, important. So wait a second. Herbert, what was his passer rating on the year? 94-1, 13 picks. I know we've looked at the stats, but just as a refresher, it is a little erratic for Herbert this year, but I guess he's probably also had some of those numbers aren't fully on him. There's definitely been some pictures where it's like, how did this become a Herbert interception? So that definitely could be hot takey, but hey, I do kind of like the idea of taking, like, if the Packers took McVay, imagine with the second pick in our redraft scenario here. So that would, picking McVay over LaFleur, who we all like as a good coach, but and not say, hey, headline Packers. What do you go back to LaFleur? I guess after the playoffs, and then the franchise just resets. I guess that'd be a weird version of the league. But if we just stick to players, let's go. What was Stafford on interceptions this year though? Because May was, of course, at the end of the day, amongst the most efficient quarterbacks as well too. Again, maybe the defenses weren't going to force turnovers there. It's like, which defense is going to get an interception? But, Drake May wasn't giving them away as well. So, number 1 offense in the year, number 10 defense. But, unfortunately, tough division. And some of those happen to be their losses on the year. Some of that tie-breaking type stuff. Stafford was 236 first downs, 4,700 yards, 46 touchdowns, 8 picks. Puka, incredible. And Kyron still able to put up 1,200 yards. Oh, did Indiana just get a stop? Oh, I think so. Oh, no, that might have been, is it done now at this point? But, 15-42, and that's the play that ends it. But fourth quarter, clock really starting to move a little bit. Again, 30-point deficit. But, was it a punt? Did they block a punt? Oh, a blocked punt. They've now literally won in every facet of the game. If it hasn't been dominant enough, they've now definitely got them on special teams. And, we're saying the high-flying offense here from Indiana. It's definitely been that. But what is this now, 3 or 4 drives? 2, 3, 4 drives that have started? 2 drives at least that have started inside, the 10? And 3 maybe inside the 20 overall. So, the defense doing their part to really set them up in a great spot as well too. So yeah, we'll go Stafford, and then we'll go May. We'll just get Justin Herbert back on the Chargers, because Justin Herbert, we're just gonna see more memes this year of them after they lose in the first round. Wait, who are they playing in the first round? Let me double check that one here. I guess that they would be playing the Patriots. So we're taking Drake May over the Chargers, if I'm not mistaken there. I guess that is a tough one. Of course, our guy Bill Simmons would probably reference some of the recent historical success that the Patriots have had over the Chargers recently. There definitely is good vibes, and picking that franchise over the Chargers, but still Herbert over May is a little bit hesitant. But Vrabel, maybe gives you a little bit of edge as well too. I don't know. Vrabel over our guy Harbaugh is a tough one. I guess the AFC, obviously, the records of these teams being pretty equal. Steelers, Texans, yeah, even that. With the way Rodgers is playing, I know this Texans defense is, again, stacked with talent. Will Anderson Jr. could be in competition for an early pick here as an edge rusher to build your defense around. Would Howie Roseman go with Will Anderson instead of, where's Jalen Hurts in this redraft scenario? I do also really want to consider like Verse as like the first non-quarterback off the board. Again, in this scenario, I don't know if teams would gravitate toward the receiver in the same way, probably because they end up doing it in the draft as well too. So I imagine that they would end up in the redraft scenario with the same thing. But here, let me see where Verse is. The PFF grade will be the deciding unbiased factor. We'll have a biased factor, me, and then a unbiased factor, but I guess biased to them. Oh, where do they have Stafford at for QBs? Is that number 1? Yeah, number 1. Puka, of course, number 1 receiver. 96.3 has got to be like one of the highest grades they've ever handed out. That's insane. Verse 11th overall. I still would, I guess personally, is it just because Will Anderson is in the AFC South? If Will Anderson was on the Rams and Verse was on the Texans, would we like just the Rams player in general more? I don't know. But Verse to the Eagles? Is that the Howie Roseman pick? Oh, no, it's Joe Thuney. We forgot. I guess Joe Thuney in this mock draft is one pick away from actually going to the Bears. Here, let me see if I can actually pull this up in the background here. But the Eagles could take Thuney as well because we've pointed out, I guess not us, but we've referenced a couple of shorts that we've seen on the reels that have pointed out Thuney's recent run of playoff success. We've seen him go from the Chiefs, a dynasty winning Super Bowls, to now the Bears all of a sudden have turned their franchise around, and Thuney and the offensive line have definitely been a part of that. So, yeah, we've got, here, let's see. Boom, playoff redraft. Josh Allen to the Panthers is what's happening. We'll see where Bryce Young ends up. I don't know if the Bills are taking him here over the next couple of picks. Do we have to go offensive lineman Trent Williams if it's the Eagles? They definitely did announce the All-Pro teams for this year. I'm sure we looked at that as well. I'm probably just assuming my own predictions are actually what happened. It's like, oh, we don't even need to check it out. We just got it 100% right. But let's see if we got All-Pro announcements. We got Pro Bowl, but All-Pro team, Titans Wire, NFL analyst name to All-Pro team. That might not be the actual All-Pro team. Does it not get revealed yet? I thought maybe regular season. Maybe that gets revealed more around the NFL honors time. I don't remember exactly the timing for that. Let's just go NFL All-Pro team, no year, and see if that helps. 2025, Lamar, one day. Okay, wait a second. So maybe we do PFF, All-Pro. Okay, well, I guess since we're referencing PFF, we'll see what their linemen were for the All-Pro team. Do we want to be biased and go with their linemen? We know Quentin Nelson, I guess. Oh, the Colts aren't in the playoffs. So close, chat. So close. Quentin Nelson is in the playoffs? I don't know. But Bulls? Garrett Bulls? Wait, what's happening here? Broncos? Oh, this is just Broncos Wire, an article about the Broncos. But we know their line, I guess, is on there. Next Gen Stats, All-Pro team. So none of the All-Pro teams except for the actual All-Pro team. The AP All-Pro team from last year. Oh, Mendoza finds Surratt again. They're pushing 50, chat. Hey, yo. 48-15. The dominance is there. Signetti, shout out. Miami might just postpone the game. They might not even need the national championship game. The college football just forgot about it. Like, Indiana's too good. They're too fun. The dominance is there. You know, who did they even play in the last game? They didn't even stand a chance. It didn't even matter. Was it? And we're saying who did they even play? It was Alabama, you know, the previous dynasty great school of this century. And now all of a sudden, you know, that doesn't even matter. A new powerhouse is in town. Ayo, Indiana. So, ayo, they got Drake May, All-Pro quarterback. Bijan not in the playoffs. Couple of receivers are there. McBride not there as well. Offensive line, Lane Johnson still an All-Pro. Would be there. Deion Dawkins for the Bills. and our guy Trent Williams. So unfortunately, he is questionable. So maybe would Howie Roseman take a questionable in terms of the injury status, is what we're saying. Would he take an injury status questionable Trent Williams? I think healthy Trent Williams is still the guy. And that's the thing. The Niners, even with the injury that they have, it just shows you how stacked they are already. But between Purdy, McCaffrey, and Kittle, and I guess it goes to show Purdy ascending to being maybe actually one of those elite talents. Because maybe Purdy, would the Eagles take Purdy right now? I don't know if the Bears, they're probably still, if we're, going in with the knowledge that we have now, do they just take Caleb Williams and say, hey, he's our guy. Ben Johnson's our coach if we're running the same coaches. And hopefully, again, the turnaround is real. The pick has paid off. But, yeah, maybe Purdy is in contention for one of the top quarterback picks as well, too, because all the numbers would definitely point that direction. I think Seattle might make that move if he were on the board here. I guess the Niners are up next, so they're probably taking him as well, too. But maybe they just go McCaffrey. And maybe the Bills go McCaffrey. Do they just play McCaffrey at quarterback and say, hey, can we say that's basically Josh Allen? I don't know if that's allowed or not, but he would be right up there as well, too. But again, between those three guys, that could just be the single best three-person trio. I guess how many ways can we rank the players? But if we did rank trios, again, Seattle and the Rams are up there as well, too. Now we're leaving Jared Versoff in terms of the talent. But those might be the top three. And it is, again, just the AFC West. But it does mean that, we have to, of course, take them seriously. And I'm sure, it's not they're not taken seriously, if we said that grammatically correct. But, Eagles matchup is going to be a good, tough, you would assume, playoff matchup. Eagles just a feisty playoff team, even if it maybe is not seeming like the most electric version of the Eagles team. But I do really, really want to pick the Niners, because, again, we're just biased towards Shanahan. It is what it is. And more so just pick them in the NFC, but, they'll have the road test, and just, again, their defense is giving up too many drives at this point. Even in a game where they were a low-scoring game against Seattle, again, their offense was not necessarily performing like a ton of points in that game as well, too. So, yes, there was aspects of it that were favorable going forward, but it's like, okay, projectably it's still, they lost by 10. Again, I guess, 13-3 or 30-40. Again, I guess the game plan is different, but, and, they're right down there at the goal line. McCaffrey, I guess if he doesn't drop the pass, maybe he goes higher in this redraft as well, too. Or do the Bears, we said the Bears have to take Tooney, right? Maybe Caleb Williams goes to the second round. I don't know if it's Ben Johnson that is the guy that the Bears are relying on in this case. But yeah, the Bills, do they just have to take their guy, James Cook? He's been arguably the best running back in the league. We'll say Jonathan Taylor has been the best running back in the league, but he did get the rushing title. Maybe they go Rousseau or our guy Deion Dawkins. But yeah, it might have to be Purdy or Darnold at this point, because again, I think the three main quarterbacks are off the list. I don't know, you go Rodgers. Do the Bills just want the legacy comfortability status for the playoffs? I don't know, but we'll go Brock Purdy. I'm standing by my takes, I guess. Let's put him here. McCaffrey, the football player rankings, however you want to phrase that, but the quarterback ability that Purdy has risen to is definitely there. So I guess that puts McCaffrey on the 49ers if they're being biased. So, McCaffrey, and then Verse over the Rams. So I don't know if the point of the playoff redraft was to get the guys back on their teams, but I guess that's what's happening. Hey, yo. Does it make a lot more sense? Because then the Texans would just take C.J. Stroud, right? So do we need Stroud to be in the 49ers offense? I guess that is interesting. Hey, yo. If we had Shanahan coaching C.J. Stroud, I imagine that would probably go pretty well. But their offense in the reliability of the run game through that, McCaffrey, again, has been near the best in the league. And just they're relying their whole offense on him with the receiving game as well, too. Could you get, again, like another quarterback in the second round? Could you get Jalen Hurts in the second round of this redraft? And now all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts and McCaffrey, or would you rather have C.J. Stroud and, I was going to say, Woody Marks? Hey, would you rather have the Texans offense? I don't know. But maybe we need to get a little bit more spicy for the redraft. And JSN as well too. Not going over McCaffrey is a little bit of a take since we've been saying JSN is the MVP, the rival. I guess I could just see 49ers fans being like, no, we wouldn't actually take JSN. We love Christian McCaffrey, but it's not an emotional draft. It's a rational draft. Hey, yo. And McCaffrey, I guess, we're not saying it's the irrational pick, but the point of this is not to, pick the guy that the fan base loves the most, I guess. The fan base wants to root for the most going into the playoff run, unless it's Joe Tooney. But again, that's just foundational to the wins. It is what it is. So I guess Lawrence would be the random quarterback of where do we throw him in on the ranking. But let me look at where they have Hines Allen as well too this year, and some of the Jags defensive guys, because that unit has really been impressive in getting turnovers and setting that team up all season, and just the two-way balance that team has. Again, maybe not the best name value. What's a guy like, who's even that guy they took number 1 overall? Walker. Trayvon Walker. What's he doing this year? 55th? They've got him with a positive grade, a little light green on the color for him. Shout out. Hines Allen, 6th overall edge. I mean, he's still a menace, chat. It is what it is. They got Devin Lloyd as the 3rd overall linebacker. A good balanced game there as well, too. What about, since they traded for Jacoby Myers, I guess not on the season, or not just on the Jags, but on the season, 38th overall receiver is not bad as well, too. And they've got Lawrence as the 8th overall quarterback. Oh, so I guess we'll let PFF decide as well, too. Though I think Purdy's ratings are a little bit better. We'll see if PFF has the second opinion here as well. They do have Purdy at 4th. So I guess the Bills do have to take Brock Purdy. That is correct. But so I guess, we don't need to necessarily double check that. But do the Niners have to take Trevor Lawrence? Would Shanahan look at this situation and say Trevor Lawrence provides more value? I think he would actually. I think the Niners would rather have McCaffrey. But then would the Rams rather have Trevor Lawrence? Or would they rather have the edge rusher? Or would you rather get, probably not with the way the Packers have been playing this year as well, too, and with those guys being injured, or Darnold or JSN as an option, or Derek Brown. Do we have to name a Panthers player? Respect to the Panthers. I mean, they get Josh Allen in this redraft, so I mean, it's really working out. Is it a better or worse situation for Josh Allen? What does that mean for the Bills? If you put Josh Allen on the Panthers in the NFC or Josh Allen on the Bills in the AFC, what's more likely? You get a home game if you're the Panthers. So you play the Rams. Would you rather play the Rams at home with the Panthers roster or the Jags on the road with the Bills roster? It's an interesting question. I do think that you would probably take the Jags, or the Jags at home with the Bills roster, if we're saying that correctly. We'd still rather take him in his current scenario, but it is close. You start going Rousseau versus Brown. The run game they can maybe patch together. McMillan might be a better receiver than anybody on the Bills. So that's a real conversation somehow. But I think for the hot take stuff, unfortunately, I don't know if we can quite get there. And then, the Texans fans, I guess maybe this is where we would get there, because we don't really care if the Texans fans, I guess, get mad. And if they wouldn't actually take Trevor Lawrence over CJ Stroud, I don't think. But in this case, they will, because Lawrence has had the better season. They'll swap that out. Pause for the playoff run. But here we'll see where they have CJ Stroud ranked out for the year as well too. Will Anderson, they have him graded 2nd, so pretty highly there. CJ Stroud 72.9, so 21st. A little bit average on the year, but let's take a look at his last couple of games and see what they have looked like. But I'm sure Lawrence's last games, if we've been tracking his stats, have just continued to look better and better as well too, especially project him out. 19 touchdowns, 8 interceptions on the year for Stroud. So he did play 14 games, quite a bit, but not the craziest touchdown to interception ratio. Dante Moore rolling out, fires 4th and 4. Indiana's going to get the ball back, chat. Maybe they will get to 60. I don't know. Maybe they are better than that Georgia team. The offense might be. So if the defense sneaky is right there, then, who's to say? But Stroud, I guess, over the last couple of weeks. So they've been winning like crazy. Can we do a game log sort here? Is it going to? No, it's going to make us go to game logs. It's okay. But it doesn't look like Stroud's numbers are jumping off the page. The defense has been definitely very, very viable. there's obviously a good connection there with him and Collins in the run game. They've been able to scratch together some stuff there. But he has only had 3 turnovers in the last 5 weeks. I guess 2 of them against the Chargers in a win is obviously not ideal. And there still is, I guess that rookie season status that we have, those opinions that we have of CJ Stroud, they're still wearing off. It is what it is. Like, we still hold him in high regard. But, I feel like if we're looking at this season objectively, Trevor Lawrence would have to be the pick. He would have to be the option. So does that mean Stroud goes to the Jags? Or does that mean Darnold goes to the Jags? See, now I feel like you would still probably trust Stroud a little bit more than Darnold, even if he could get, maybe it seems like now equally risky at times. I feel like there is still a little bit more reliability there in what he can accomplish on the offense. So the last 6 games, 62% completion percentage. He would have been on pace for a 22 touchdown, 8 interception season, 3,800 yards. That's pretty good. If his completion percentage is a little higher, then yeah, he's definitely able to get there. And what was that? 4-5 was against the Steelers. So that defense has been pretty susceptible at times to some big performances. That pass rush against Rodgers, I don't want to say that that's an easy pick, and I guess not easy to pick Stroud next in the playoff redraft. So the Jags might have to go pass rush, build around the defense at this point, and go a different direction. Do we take Will Anderson off the board? I was gonna say Derrick Henry. Hey, yeah, we were getting really excited. Our voice was not about to crack in a major way there. Pause. We were definitely just about to go. Derrick Henry would have been the next pick. But I guess, wait, did we leave the we didn't leave the Ravens off. Sorry, Ravens fans. I legitimately forgot. It was close. It wasn't that. It was just, Lamar. It was a good season. We're not trying to be mean. We're not trying to bring up bad memories. It is what it is. But, nope, the Steelers are getting Drake May in the playoff redraft. Shout out. It is what it is. And we've had no Broncos players go. Probably a disrespect to the Broncos offensive line. Quinn Miraz, Nick Bonito, Pat Surtain. Maybe it's like the entire 2nd or 3rd round is Broncos, and it's that depth overall that gets you there. But should we just take JSN as well? The Jags, I guess they love taking receivers. Is this the karma for taking Travis Hunter? Hey, you get a really good receiver. It is what it is. And let me double check. Make sure we get everything right here with the name. Okay, yes, shout out. We're locked in. Good to go. And we should probably also take Puka as well before Smith and Jigba, but we're taking JSN. Is Puka Stafford reliant? I think Stafford might be a little Puka reliant every now and then. So the Patriots have gone from Drake May to Puka Nacua as their best overall player. It's a bit of a difference somehow. There is some quarterbacks on the board. Hurts has not gone, and that's honestly just, me trying to bend to public opinion a little bit. I think I would probably biasly just draft a quarterback and take Hurts. Maybe get him a little bit more creative of an offense. I mean, chat, we said that they would keep running up the score. So the rushing touchdown sprung free. 55, make it 56 to 15. Oh, no. Signetti's here to stamp his legacy, chat. He is here to let us know it is what it is. Or the Patriots might just take Will Anderson as well, too. We've got, I guess, no Texans players on the board. Rodgers? Do the Patriots go with Rodgers or Bo Nix or Sam Darnold? Witherspoon? There's a lot of guys. There are some options here, I guess, to mess with. Bo Nix. Sean Payton, I guess we said coaches aren't eligible. But we'll go with Puka Nacua, I guess has to be the pick. It is what it is. And then the Seahawks, JSN, just a couple of picks away. Somehow they've been backed into a corner to taking Sam Darnold again in this playoff scenario. Or like we said, if we just want to mix it up, then I guess Jalen Hurts would be the option. And I guess if I'm, given my own takes, then maybe we sit here and say we would rely on Jalen Hurts more in a playoff series. Again, do we rely on him more in this Philly offense with the vibes of this Philly team against this Niners team? It does seem like an interesting matchup for Philly, unfortunately, in the wrong ways. But, But I still think that Hurts is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. But Rodgers has been good this year. And if you get Rodgers a good offensive line for this playoff run, I do kind of trust Rodgers. And to be honest, I don't know if you have to take him over Lawrence or Smith and Jigba or Verse even as well. Would the Rams take, I guess if McVay had his choice, would he rather have Verse or Rodgers? McVay is such a quarterback guy that I think he would he take Rodgers over Lawrence as well too? How far off in the PFF grade is Rodgers than Trevor Lawrence? Again, they had Lawrence at 8th. So he's been really cooking and being held, again, his season being held in very high regard. I'm assuming he was one of the 3 Pro Bowlers as well too for AFC quarterbacks, unless it was Allen, Herbert, and May. But it was probably Allen, May, and Lawrence. Yeah, I mean, Lawrence will be a replacement, assuming they don't get to the Super Bowl, right? Which is maybe some new rule stuff now as well. But yeah, let's see, because, again, he's been having to work with some, fewer weapons. No DK Metcalf over the last couple games. Maybe we take DK Metcalf. We were talking about non-quarterback MVPs over the course of the season as well, too. And, DK Metcalf's value to the offense was definitely proven over the last couple of games. So they've got Rodgers at 29. They got him below CJ Stroud. So maybe the tiebreaker goes to the, to the PFF rating. I'm not sure. But my the vibes are that Rodgers, again, unfortunate matchup against this Texas defensive line. But with Metcalf, maybe there is a quickness and just just having another explosive playmaker there. Maybe they are able to manufacture some stuff that makes this work. And again, the Texans offense hasn't been majorly explosive as well too. I don't know, even with as bad as the Steelers defense is, at times, you could still see the Texans not necessarily running up the score on them. So that might be a favorable scenario for Rodgers there, as you get to the Jags. Are they going to make a playoff run? But would you trade Rodgers for Bo Nix right now? Oh, man, like Broncos fans would be up for 3 straight days thinking about that trade. For one playoff run, again, if you're sacrificing maybe a couple playoff runs of Bo Nix, I don't know, for one of Aaron Rodgers, again, if you think you can win the Super Bowl, then I guess you have to do it. But either way, that would be a brutal choice to have to make, and maybe it would just be the admittance of, giving up on a 14-3 season with the quarterback. I don't know, but that might be a trade that actually would go through at this point. But we also haven't taken Caleb Williams as well too. I forgot Tooney was the pick we have for the Bears and from the Bears only at this point. And again, the Patriots have such they've really performed well. There is a good balance overall to the roster, but outside of Drake May and then I would say Stephon Diggs as well, there isn't a ton of name value on the team. And I'm probably forgetting somebody as well too. Is Cole Strange still there? But it doesn't even jump off the page who their other next star players are. I guess Christian Gonzalez, the corner, as one of the, of course, studs on the team when he is out there. Booty and Demario Douglas as the other receivers. They got Demario Douglas as the 20th overall receiver in the league. So again, we just got to put some respect on the guys' names. And we could walk away from the playoffs and go like, yeah, Demario Douglas is a top 20 receiver in the league. He's awesome. Keep him on your fantasy watch list for next year. The connection between him and May, sets him up for without Diggs going forward. Who knows? They've got Diggs at 6 though. So again, that's like an elite. Do we call it a Kelsey Mahomes combo? I don't know. Maybe they can rely on it like that in a playoff series. The part would become who would be the Chris Jones and who could be the, Trent McDuffie, Tyrann Mathieu, the great linebacker core that they have there. Spillane is a baller for sure. But I don't know, will they get the pass rush and the defensive play make at the timely times that Kansas City has had, the stops when they need it. Maybe the defensive line isn't quite in play. So it is a little bit difficult for me to pick the Patriots to win 4 playoff games in a row. Though, again, or 3 in a row, I guess, because they have, 4 in a row. Yeah, they're the number 2 seed, AO. But it's also the team that really was able to accomplish that the most easily this year. So it is something that we have seen, but I don't know if I trust just, again, this roster compared to some of these other rosters. But May is great as well, too. So if he really elevates this team, then it just could, be his, quote-unquote greatness as a young player really starting to emerge. And I know we've said it in the past, but with the Mahomes emergence, I'm not sitting here saying that I thought, obviously, he was going to be arguably the most talented quarterback we've ever seen. But, we were we were obviously, I'll say interested to downplay our own, how much we liked him at Texas Tech, but we definitely knew about him. We were definitely following him. I was rooting for him, again, am I being a little over dramatic? But not really. Like, I was rooting for him all the way. It is what it is. Like, do I have to, I don't have to prove my point. I just, it is what it is. I like Mahomes at Texas Tech. And, I'm sure you could check the tapes the other way around. I'm not saying anything there. I'm just saying what I'm saying is the emergence of that next dominant quarterback in the league as it was going those extra levels where you're like, oh man, I didn't see this happening. Again, I was all for it because that's a guy that I had been watching in college and been a fan of and just was a super fun player to root for because those offenses were crazy. He's putting up crazy stats like Madden offense. It's like, okay, this is fun to watch. But May, again, not necessarily against it, but, that Patriots dynasty, I'm still, it's still kind of even though it's a different regime, the name, it still seems like it's still a little bit of the same thing taken over there. Again, even if it's not Brady, even if it's not Belichick, it's just like, oh no, are the Patriots back? And, I like Drake May. Drake May's a really great quarterback, but I wouldn't say I have that, career investment in him as a player the same way that we would in Mahomes. So I'm not as ready to just like, jump on and be like, oh yeah, he's the best. He's the best ever. I'm sit here and admit that he is one of the best he's like playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this year. But to just hand, like, I was ready to hand Mahomes the league like 6 games in. Like, this is incredible. But to actually hand Drake May the league, we'll have to see a playoff run and see what he's able to do with this team on the, the bigger stage at this point as well, too. But again, we have him 3rd in this redraft over Justin Herbert, who I guess has had some playoff minutes. But I don't know, Drake May, lack of playoff appearances in his first year benefits him over Herbert in this case. But again, I think it was biased to get Herbert to the Chargers, but also maybe Herbert going 1 pick in front of the Chargers is very Chargers-esque as well. Do we have to flip this? Well, I guess we did look up the Herbert turnovers. So, yeah, you're going to get some more efficiency from Drake May there as well. Let's go. Do we just go Aaron Rodgers for the take of it? Why not? Aaron Rodgers to Seattle? Maybe Seattle would do that, honestly. And then what did we say? Hurts was an option. I guess we could go some of the defensive guys. Cam Hayward, maybe. Start building around some offensive line options. But let's go. We know they're going to need a quarterback. So let's go Aaron Rodgers, I guess, as the option. Or was there another obvious one that I was leaving off? Oh, I said Caleb Williams as well, too. Ooh, I am starting to trust Caleb Williams more. So I'm not saying that that's close, but maybe they take the swing and go Caleb Williams in this offense. And he's been clutch this year as well, too. That defense can make plays. It could definitely be a sneaky Bears Super Bowl. The Bears do find themselves in Super Bowls. They won in 85. They made it in 07. I don't know if that's the same type of spacing, 07 to 20 years, 85 to 07, 30 years. So 20 years, and then in 10 years, is that how the exponential pause growth for the Bears franchise is going to work? I don't know. But maybe it is on time for the Bears to get there. Is Bears-Bills? Bears-Bills does feel like kind of still somehow a marquee Super Bowl as well, too. You have a marquee player and a marquee franchise. The Rams, the Packers, the Niners. The Panthers and the Seahawks would be worst-case scenario. So those are the, Seahawks are the best team in the NFC record-wise. So that is, I guess, likely. The AFC, Jags and Texans and Chargers as well, too. Herbert's a star, but you just, the Chargers are not bringing any buzz to the Super Bowl, unfortunately. It is what it is. The Super Bowl doesn't really need the Chargers, but it's not going to get benefited by it. That's for sure. Again, the Herbert stuff, Madison Beer, I guess that's pretty fun. But, again, I guess Broncos, Patriots, Steelers, Bills. And, the Bills is borderline, but because of the 90s thing and because it was against the Cowboys, not to just reduce it down to that, and because, again, Josh Allen and Haley Steinfeld is a major star. Because Sinners was so great this year, all of a sudden the Bills are now a favorite team. So we have to, I guess, are we cheering? I didn't even think about that. But if the, does Josh Allen have to carry the name of Sinners? And, is he the quarterback for the Sinners movie? I don't know how that works. But I'm sure, would Cornbread let Josh Allen in? We'll have to ask. I'm not sure. But, maybe we know the answer. Again, maybe not ours to give, but just, a guess. I'm not sure. But, does Haley Steinfeld have a +1 at some point? Is that a scene? She's like, Michael B., I found a new man. You know, I don't know what Kugler's going to write up for dialogue there, but, you know, as they discuss that, then, you know, I guess maybe some of the dialogue between them after that maybe would be a little bit more awkward if Josh Allen was around. But, you know, either way, I'm sure a cameo from him in a movie at some point would be interesting. Is that his next move? He's like, okay, now after Sinners, he's got a cameo in every movie that Steinfeld is in. I'm not sure, but yeah, I guess we still don't have a pick for this Seahawks team for the draft. We go Will Anderson, we go Stroud, we go. I do want to take Anderson. We took Verse off the board for the Rams, so why not? The Seattle defense has been kind of the main thing in a way as well too. You know, again, JSN and the offense have been crazy. But if they built around the defense, that would not be surprising at all. And it's just our general knowledge of, you know, overall offensive line play. Again, we got Tooney in this first round, but if Quentin Nelson's not in the list, then maybe we don't know the name. So maybe you go like Deion Dawkins for the Seahawks here or something. But, you know, I guess it'll be Will Anderson. And then the Broncos, they get an interesting spot. So, yeah, this could be Jalen Hurts. Is this Serpentine? Is this a Serpentine NFL draft? I don't know. If you reduce it to 14 teams, does it become that? I don't think so. Though it would be really interesting if they could get like Jalen Hurts here and then on the turn, the Broncos on the turn. I guess the Panthers, if you get Josh Allen, though, in a playoff draft, that's pretty OP. Though, again, I guess you get Jalen Hurts and who's like another edge rusher or an offensive lineman or DK Metcalf. You get Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf. Or Josh Allen and DK Metcalf, I guess is the case. I guess Fred Warner was out too. Unfortunately, it can't be Fred Warner. Parsons is out, so I don't know if we have Packers players in contention at this point. You know, Jacobs, again, offensive lineman. I'm sure Love as well too if you want to take a playoff swing at it. But, hey, yo, it might have to be... Again, this playoff's really going to be a prove it for the stars outside of the quarterbacks as well, too. Again, the marquee teams and those big moments help increase the name value of those players. So you get familiarity with Eagles players this year, you know, guys like Jalen Carter and stuff because, you know, they were in the Super Bowl last year as well. So maybe Jalen Carter's the next pick. Lane Johnson? Do the Broncos go Lane Johnson here? Now the Eagles' offensive line hasn't been, you know, flying around maybe the same way it has in the past. You know, again, PFF will help ease our mind, I guess, with some of these picks. We'll see where they have. Hey, yo. I was going to look up offensive line quarterback Hurts. Was it? Oh, Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter's performance at for this year, just to reinforce how good his season may have been. Oh, 57th. Yeah. I mean, maybe that goes to the Eagles' ups and downs. You know, the high-level moments are still obviously crazy, but the play-to-play consistency hasn't been there. Tanner McKee in the starting lineup still for the Eagles. Does that mean he's going to start? Let me do a quick Jalen Hurts Google search and see what we get here as a result. If there's any Tanner McKee rumblings, then Jalen Hurts accused of throwing Eagles coach under the bus. Oh, no. Before playoff game, hopefully Sirianni's okay. Hey, yo. Got him, chat. But it does seem like Hurts is in line to start, but according to PFF, it's Tanner McKee right now. And giving credit to A.J. Brown here as well, too, in terms of those ability to just be that receiver that takes over a game. Like, hey, are we back? Testing 1, 2. I just got a reconnection successful. Okay. We're locked in and ready to go. You know, it's we're not giving him the credit to, you know, take over a game like the same way like those guys can, but he definitely can. Or we go Benito as well, too, if we're building around these pass rushers. We mentioned James Cook also as, you know, a viable weapon for these teams. Rodgers, Hurts. I can't, like, actually take Rodgers over Jalen Hurts this year, but the vibes, I think Rodgers is just in a better vibes place, even though that Steelers team is, you know, even a little bit more week to week, how will they perform overall than that Philly team. I guess I have to go with my gut, like I'm saying. Pause. Let's take Jalen Hurts for the Broncos fans. You know, AOers, you know, Sean Payton and Hurts, though. I think we could make a case that is a good pairing. I guess we're taking him over Stroud, which would be the interesting part. Did the Broncos turn in the pick yet? Hey, yo. Maybe somebody can run down the guy, tackle the guy, and give him a new card. I don't know. Or is it Caleb Williams? Caleb Williams, Jalen Hurts, or Stroud? I would still have the bias towards Stroud, but I think of those three guys, maybe Caleb has been the better option this year. So let's go Caleb Williams for the Broncos and give him credit for what the Bears have done this year as well too. So we've got 2 Rams in Stafford and Jared Verse, and two Bears in Joe Thuney and Caleb Williams being drafted in our playoff redraft. So Indiana's going to the national championship. Indiana versus Miami. Shout out to Michael Irving versus Kurt Signetti is going to be just an all-time matchup. Can't wait to see it next Monday. Absolutely dominant. Potentially one of the teams of the century. I guess we can get into those storylines a little bit more because, like we say, we got to pump the brakes and realize there still is a national championship game. But holy cow, this Indiana team is not an underdog. That is for sure. They're top dog, chat. Hey, yo, we got them. I mean, again, documentary phrases all over the place. It is what it is. But do we have to do one more draft? Serpentine or not? Panthers with the next pick. Hey, yo, do we have to get Josh Allen a weapon? We'll assume all of these teams have great offensive lines, and we don't have to worry about it. Or do we start taking secondary guys as well, too? Because that Seattle secondary is pretty terrifying. Josh Allen, Nick Benito, Josh Allen, and Hines. Do we take both Josh Allens? Oh, they could get Josh Allen on offense and Josh Allen on defense? That does sound like something the Panthers might do. And Hines Allen has had a great season as well, so it wouldn't even be a bad pick at this point in the second round, though. Again, we could lock in that dominant receiver or Deion Dawkins. We just take the Bills and give them to the Panthers. So, hey, there we go. Maybe that gives us confidence in the Bills as well too. What are the odds on a Bills versus... Well, let's look it up. What are the odds on a Bills versus Bears Super Bowl? Maybe that'll help inform not our, I guess, draft, but definitely our pick as well too. If there's some juicy some juicy thick odds on Bears versus Bills, we might be headed that direction. I don't know, but here, let me see. I don't know why we went back to that. I guess just to update chat, just to double check, just to look at it again. It is what it is. Let's see here. NFL, we want Super Bowl matchups, actually. I imagine that it's not going to be great. I'm trying to think if can we get more than 50-1 on this matchup? Or, it's 80 to 1? Okay. It's one of the higher, I guess Bills because it's alphabetical. Hey, yo. So more likely options than that, just featuring the Bills themselves. And again, because of Josh Allen, I assume that some of the odds, they're not going to be necessarily like the biggest underdog of all time. But you've got Bills Seahawks 27-1's got to be up there overall, just has lower odds. Still, more likely than the Bears. The Eagles and the Rams as well. So I guess not surprising any of those. But 80-1. 80-1's not bad, honestly. Bills Packers is the same as Bills Bears. The Bears have home field advantage all the way through the playoffs except for Seattle. And the Packers are like all injured. They don't even have their best player, Micah Parsons. So I don't know about that. But otherwise, we've got Carolina versus the Patriots. I don't know if we're doing any bets with Carolina in the Super Bowl. Sorry to the Panthers fans, but we'll let you guys enjoy your playoff run without the jinx of a rem bet. How about that? But Bears to beat the Bills. So it's not a matchup. It's the actual Bills to beat the Bears. So yeah, Josh Allen will get the Super Bowl over the Bears. We could obviously bet it both ways and be profitable, but 100-1 if the Bears go over the Bills. So yeah, I think we might be doing that. Bears Broncos 60-1. What about Broncos versus Bears? 55-1 for Broncos Bears. Broncos Packers 61. Broncos Rams 27-1. Broncos to beat the Niners 80-1. That's not bad as well. That is not bad. Let's skip ahead. San Francisco the other way to take down the Broncos in the Super Bowl. Like an old school Shanahan Super Bowl. Let's go. San Francisco to beat the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl 80-1 as well. So I guess 80-1 is the target range for good bets. Eagles Chargers. It's possible. Anything is possible. It could be Eagles Chargers. So chat, I guess just pick a bet that's 80-1. They're honestly all not bad. Let's see what else we got here for 81. 27-1 Seahawks versus Texans. 27-1. I mean, defenses are good for sure, but I don't know. Texans are going to win. Seahawks versus Broncos 14-1. Don't do that. I'm telling you right now, don't do that. If the Seahawks make the Super Bowl, the Broncos won't. I don't know. If the Broncos make the Super Bowl, the Seahawks might, but Broncos will let that down. I don't know. It is what it is. Seahawks over Patriots 22-1. Seahawks Steelers 55-1. Yeah, any of those 80-1s I like more than Seahawks over Steelers. It is what it is. So shout out. We've got plenty of options. And then 100-1 at what was it? Bears over Bills. So I guess what do we have? Niners versus who? I don't even remember who we were picking on the other side of that, but it seemed interesting. Oh, Broncos. Yeah. Niners Broncos or Bills Bears. Are we allowed to make 2 Super Bowl picks if they're completely different? I don't know if that makes it better or worse. You know, if it's like, okay, it's going to be the Bills versus either the Seahawks or the Rams. It's like, okay, is that really a pick? You know, you're kind of just being like, it just kind of feels like it's splitting the difference. But if it's 2 totally different predictions, the playoffs are going to go 2 totally separate ways. I feel like that's still specific enough to give us credit. You know, it's going to be Bills, Bears, or Broncos, 49ers. But maybe it's the alliteration of Bills, Bears. I don't know. But the matchup, I can see the matchup for both ways. I don't know. Bills versus Niners, something about that casting doesn't seem right. And same Broncos, I don't even remember. You know, we can't even think of the other team now. Broncos, Bears. Yeah, it just doesn't have the same ring as Broncos versus Broncos, Bills. Or Broncos, Bills be AFC Championship game. We can't even keep this straight. It is what it is. But Broncos, Niners, that's classic. And then we got Bills versus Bears. That's new age. I don't know. So maybe Bills and Bears team pair up for a Panthers pick in this playoff redraft that we haven't forgot about. We go, I guess, a third Bear off the board. Probably not. But, and I forget who we said was it a defensive lineman that we said we were going with in that spot here. Oh, Hines Allen. Yeah, let's do it, chat. Ayo, that's fun. And the Jags have been awesome. I'm sure the last half of his season, of course, has been better than the first. So, ayo, Josh Allen plus Hines Allen. So that's round 1. Round 2, I guess, ayo, you're going to have to follow along to know how to read the key here as we go along. Packers with the second pick. Let's go with, I guess it still can't be Jalen Carter. We might have to wait till the end of the third to get him. Whoa, pause myself before I finish that sentence. Hey, yo, pause that again. But we might have to, we'll hold off on drafting him a little bit later. Witherspoon, was Witherspoon a first-team All-Pro again this year? He definitely made a Pro Bowl, right? Is Witherspoon going to be the next pick? Stafford and Witherspoon on the Packers is pretty fun. What was their Pro Bowl status this year? Both of the do we have the running backs? Oh, Shaheed, a kick returner, and then Darnold. Yeah, Darnold led the league in fumbles this year. Huh, interesting. So that type of turnoverness, I'm sure, doesn't mean nothing when it comes to a playoff run there as well. Wait, where'd the defensive stats go for this team? Below the kicking stats? Who does that? So yeah, we got JSN. Lamarcus, ayo. DeMarcus Lawrence makes a Pro Bowl. Leonard Williams makes a Pro Bowl. And Devon Witherspoon does make the Pro Bowl as well. So now it's just biased. Who does Rem like to watch play football for this list? And yeah, Shaheed again for special teams. But Witherspoon's a baller. Witherspoon over Derek Brown. Here, I guess we could just pull up the Pro Bowl rosters for this year. And see, we got, Zay Flowers, unfortunately, also ineligible, along with Derrick Henry because of their Ravens team status. It is what it is. Oh, Dak. Yeah, we can't take Dak. It is what it is. There's Zay Flowers. Trey McBride, also off the table. Yeah, Deion Dawkins. Joe Alt did make the Pro Bowl. Garrett Bowles. There's Trent Williams. Wirfs. Penei Sewell. Tyler Smith. Creed Humphrey. Garrett, of course, awesome. So Anderson, we did take Will Anderson to the Seahawks earlier. So yeah, Lawrence also on the Pro Bowl. PFF's first team here listed as well, with Simmons and Williams on the defensive line. And Jalen Carter did also make the Pro Bowl. So PFF not pleased, but the writers, I guess, still think it's fine. So maybe it has to be Carter over Witherspoon, though again, the Seahawks season was just overall better. And that defense is pretty crazy. Or Surtain. I guess we're not respecting Surtain. We have taken probably too many. Would the Broncos take Caleb Williams or Surtain? Ooh. That is interesting. And I guess the Packers took Stafford. So we know that there's not going to be quarterbacks here on the turn. I guess, again, it's not serpentine, but half of these teams already took them. So I don't know if some of these other ones would wait for the third round. I don't think so. I think you would have to take the quarterback. You would have to take Caleb Williams, right? I guess we'll see how it plays out. Do we go back and redo it? You have to live with your choices. Caleb Williams it is. Pat Surtain goes to the we can't spell. Pat Surtain goes to the Packers in this situation. So they're stacking up. Honestly, we probably should have taken Surtain over Hines Allen, but the double Josh Allen combo is unnecessary if we are starting from scratch and rebuilding these teams. And Stingley as well, too. Also, you mentioned, so Gonzalez made a Pro Bowl. Somebody from that Patriots defense, of course, has to be represented. And Quinyon Mitchell as well, too. So Philly with him, Bond, and Carter all making the Pro Bowl from their defense shows how stellar it is. There, TJ Watt with 7 sacks still makes the Pro Bowl. Somehow he made the Pro Bowl. Cam Hayward did not. I guess it depends on how you look at it. Chris Jones still on the Pro Bowl this year. I mean, I guess he's still fantastic. You don't have to talk us into it. It is what it is. Though Benito probably has to go as well, too. So this is like what we're saying. The second round, once you get, I guess maybe we have to put Surtain in the first round to be like an A+ playmaker. Because Lawrence and Purdy have been that this year. So screw it, chat. Screw it. We were biased with Verse to the Rams, and we were biased with Tooney to the Bears. So we're going to be biased with Pat Surtain to the Denver Broncos. I don't know if we're going to project Caleb Williams as their second round pick automatically, but he is, defensive player of the year potential when he is locked in and at his best. So I think he does have to fit that first round criteria as well. So Josh Hines Allen still works for the Panthers. I don't think Caleb Williams now, maybe we get a little bit of a slide for Caleb Williams. This does get interesting. So yeah, no Surtain. You could go Stingley. He's right there with him for that cornerback talent, where you just take the best player available and go Jalen Carter as well. Again, if we're betting on the overall upside, or do we just go with I don't remember who we were originally going to pick there as well, too. Hey, let's go back to the offensive line. It could be one of the offensive linemen for sure, or a receiver. Because, we just took Caleb Williams out, so it wouldn't be a quarterback in that spot. Oh, Benito was going to be the guy that we're going to take. And his ability to close out some of these games as well, too. I guess it would be between Benito and Stingley. And the Packers did trade for an edge rusher. So let's give him Benito there. And then Stingley would go next to the Steelers. Derek Stingley, if we're getting it right. Cooper DeJean also made the Pro Bowl as well. So 2 corners, a middle linebacker, and a defensive lineman for Philly, all making the list. And DeJean, just for the playmaking talent, for any of these guys, the playmaking talent, the versatility as well could be a real reason to value him more than some of these other Eagles defenders. Though, again, we love Jalen Carter's high-end talent as well, too. But shout out to Benito. He's a real closer. So him and Stingley there, I think, make a ton of sense. Gonzalez, you could definitely start considering him as well. And our guy Witherspoon, definitely back in the mix. And again, with all due respect to the offensive linemen out there, it is what it is. Their importance is said. And, I guess the couple that do get mentioned, they're ones that we know about. So I guess we know, obviously the names are there. But in drafting them amongst some of the other more popular players, it is what it is. Shout out. No disrespect intended. But there's definitely some offensive linemen, in these first couple of picks. It's only the smart way to build a team. But we'll keep it moving with non-offensive linemen. Though, again, like Deion Dawkins is going to be... Screw it, chat. I'm wrong. The Chargers, you've got Herbert. Do you go Dawkins here or do you go Witherspoon? I think watching Herbert... You have to go Deion Dawkins. This might be one of those, again, the flashy, boring picks. That's why I want to stack everybody's team so it's like equally fun. So it's like, okay, Herbert's got to go out there with 2 tackles, and then Josh Allen's got, a couple of fun weapons. Stafford's got Bonito and A.J. Brown playing with him, and it's like, okay, Herbert, we just, we got Mraz and we got Deion Dawkins. It's like, okay, it works, but maybe it's a little bit more boring. I guess that's where Howie Roseman would go, though. So maybe we just save Deion Dawkins for the Eagles on the next pick. But they build through the trenches both ways. Pause. So I think, honestly, the bias might turn around and be Jalen Carter for the next pick, though. Like we said, Cooper DeJean or Bond as well, too, could definitely make a case. But I think that, yeah, they would have to probably go best interior guy that would be available, though. I guess, again, if I'm missing somebody, Byron Young. Young is pretty crazy, and Leonard Williams, has also had a great season. But I think what Jalen, and just after winning a Super Bowl, you just have to bet, I guess, on the ultimate upside of what he can be as a player. So, again, a little bit of a swing as well, too. And we had to double check, I guess, the health status to make sure that we're fully locked in there for a playoff run. But, yeah, I mean, they've proven that they obviously, love him as a player in the past. So, yeah, Trent Williams and Jalen Carter is definitely a very Eagles core. So here's where the Bears could actually take Caleb Williams as well, too. We have Jalen Hurts and Bo Nix still on the board. But, hey, screw it. The Bears actually have their own team. So maybe this means the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl. Let's take that Bears-Bills bet at 100-1. But the Bears in the redraft just have Tooney and Caleb Williams. So shout out to the Bears fans. They're the only ones that actually are, satisfied with the way that this is playing out. Pause. But the Bills, if we just end up taking James Cook here, so we just swap out Purdy for Josh Allen, or Josh Allen for Purdy, it'd be one of those, I guess we'd have to see, like, in a trade what else they would get besides Purdy to make it like a Ewing theory scenario. They wouldn't get as much as, and with all due respect to Goff and the Stafford trade, you were able to get a little bit more there extra for the way maybe Goff was perceived at the time. I think Purdy'd be a little bit more even. I think, again, you'd really have to put in an extra pick or two to get Josh Allen in any kind of deal, but, Purdy would be about as good of another quarterback piece as you could get back in that scenario, though, again, just system and how much Josh Allen has to manage. It's not to say that Purdy could just step into any system, and it would be clean enough to, have him like throw the offense on Purdy's back. But again, it's not too far off from that as well, too. But we were gonna, I guess, consider James Cook as an option, or we mentioned A.J. Brown if we were going more Eagles players as well. I know we could go Lassiter from the Texans. I know he's not on the Pro Bowl list, but he's had an excellent season as well, too, from that cornerback spot in Houston, helping out, again, his teammate Will Anderson in a did they have Will Anderson in the Pro Bowl? Will Anderson not in the Will Anderson, he is in the Pro Bowl. Garrett Anderson, Hutch, Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence as well. PFF. He didn't make the PFF second team. So maybe reconsider a little bit there. Jeffrey Simmons, the first team defensive lineman tackle this year. Tennessee. Some stuff to look for. I mean, not Simon's look for going forward, but, some stuff to continue to be excited about there. So, Broncos main players outside of the offensive line, we go Sutton. I don't know if the running backs are in the conversation here. Maybe it is Young. Byron Young and Brock Purdy for the Bills is kind of a fun combo. Christian Gonzalez, or, again, probably, is there a Packers guy? McKinney? It could be McKinney as well, too. I don't know if they were having McKinney overall. Let's see. Is he back in the Pro Bowl? J.C. Horn. Ooh, J.C. Horn. I do like J.C. Horn, Chet. Maybe can we say that if we haven't mentioned his name up until now? And, again, Gonzalez as well, too, is another name to mention. But Brock Purdy and J.C. Horn is kind of a fun one to build a team around this group combo. Or, again, a guy Witherspoon or DeJean is also an option. TJ Watt, though, you just go with the name value there. Leonard Williams as well. Lindstrom. Oh, no. Atlanta. Yeah, no, not making it. Mraz would be, I guess, if we're just going on the run of offensive linemen a little bit, or some boring picks, you would definitely also. I guess Mraz has been too good this year. So it kind of does have to be him. You get Purdy and Mraz, and maybe the Eagles just take him as well too. So we'll go him in the Mineraz. From Menirez, saying his last name right? Probably not. My bad. But our guy QM is Q, like James Bond, is in the pick there for the Bills. The Niners, we'll see if they can be biased again. I don't think so. They might end up with an Eagles guy in this situation. Though Byron Young does seem like he could be a bit of a Niners player. I don't know why. NFC West vibes. I guess same with Witherspoon. Maybe more J.C. Horn. I don't know. Who would the Niners prefer there? I think Witherspoon is borderline getting into that unanimous sort of everybody can kind of agree he's near the top of the league at his position. And yeah, I guess they had Witherspoon and Mitchell PFF over Pat Surtain and Stingley as like their first team corners. But, I think all four of those guys. I think Mitchell for me would be fourth, but that's just, his timeline as well too of being a little bit newer. So Christian McCaffrey and Devon Witherspoon, two super versatile players, obviously, for the Niners to utilize on each side of the football there. The Rams with Verse, they could go Kyron Williams. We haven't even discussed Kyron Williams as well, too, as an option. Is James Cook an upgrade? Do they continue to max out the defensive talent and go Cooper DeJean or add one of the offensive linemen? Or do we go Byron Young? Maybe this is another keep the team biased scenario. So the Rams, another team that it's looking like, could they be that perfect recipe? If it wasn't, again, for their performances literally against their own divisional teams, then, they would be the perfect team. So maybe that's the team we have to, if the Chiefs in the regular season lost to the Bills, we'd be like, oh, that's actually perfect. That's how you want it to play out because we trust Mahomes. So, it's a credit to Mahomes, and maybe there's reasons that Stafford is not obviously quite at Mahomes' level. But I think if we were looking at through a little bit more of that prism, maybe we would relax on the way some of the regular season stuff look. Let's even double check. What their results were in some of those games, because I think they were close. But they lost in week 3 to Philly, and they did give up some leads as well, too. So that is concerning, again, from a playoff standpoint. Lost to Philly, lost to San Francisco, lost to Carolina, lost to Seattle, and lost to Atlanta. So, that Atlanta game was really bad there as well, too, for Stafford and his MVP push. But those are all playoff-level teams. So that is a little bit scary in picking the Rams. And, if we're picking their defense, I don't know if talking about them giving up leads would give credit to that. But again, with Stafford and Puka, and with Young and Verse, there's like Murphy and Verse, there's some real talent on both sides of the football that it does seem like you can rely on in these big moments. It's just, again, they have unfortunately, fallen apart later in the games. It is what it is. And I don't know, Byron Murphy having a great season as well too, but maybe Young is the pick in this scenario. Brian Burns as well too is a name I keep wanting to say out loud, but unfortunately the Giants, not quite playoff time for the Giants. Al Shazier made the Pro Bowl. He is a menace. Shout out. He might have to be taken as well too. Again, this Texans defense probably deserves a couple more guys being shouted out, including Lassiter. So they could just take him here now as well, too, to add to their AFC rival, Trevor Lawrence. What other AFC South team can they take from and build a rival opponent team? Maybe this would be the DeJean over Mitchell. Oh, they had Mitchell on second and DeJean on first. Okay, DeJean does seem like a Texans-y type of player, though. Maybe they had the chance to take him and passed on him. I don't know. I'm sure they did. He was a second-round pick. But Trevor Lawrence, Cooper DeJean. There's a certain vibe for Houston. It is what it is. But Jackson Smith and Jigba is not going to be playing with Trevor Lawrence. We forgot about Jalen Hurts. I did forget that Jalen Hurts is on the board. I have not been passing on him. I don't know if you look back and go, well, where does he go? That is a problem. Wait, because Purdy was to the Bills already, and Caleb Williams, we were biased there by staying with the same player. So, and Texans have Trevor Lawrence. So do the Rams go with Jalen Hurts? I guess if we're sticking with the McVay situation, actually, let's go there instead. That would be the more realistic play. As much as Hurts may be a controversial quarterback, and, we took Minarez, we took Witherspoon over him, so we took some other guys. But I think maybe, again, Dawkins, Herbert's there. So, yeah, I think this is a good spot for him to land on this list. Again, do you think, new situation, healthier, like Jordan Love? I don't know. Is Jordan Love even healthy for the playoff games? That's a question, if we have to ask, I don't know if that's answered. But Ramsey also making the Pro Bowl as well, too. I think his individual performance on the Pittsburgh team was a little bit, obviously standoutish compared to what their numbers would be from time to time. I don't know if he makes this list, though. I do just want to get J.C. Horn on a team, though maybe Bond would be the smarter pick, because the offensive lineman at this point, wouldn't be quite at the Pro Bowl, at least for this year's status, Pro Bowl level. Anyways, left on the board, if I'm not mistaken. Let me think through the guys here. Unless you're betting on, I don't know, probably not betting on anybody for the Patriots in this stance. The Panthers offensive line, can hold up really, really well. Again, the Bears offensive line has been good this year. So, again, I guess Mailata. It could be Mailata for the Jags. JSN and Mailata, no quarterback. So is it Bo Nix here? Did we take all the quarterbacks playoff? Oh, Aaron Rodgers. Oh, JSN and Aaron Rodgers. That's not bad. Would the Rams take Aaron Rodgers? Oh, we forgot about Rodgers. Rodgers versus Hurts. Oh, Chad, I can't even have the discussion. I still want to say Hurts, but if this playoff run makes us look back and go, no, if you had to actually redo this, maybe you should have taken Rodgers. Hey, but we'll still take Cooper DeJean over Rodgers because they also have Trevor Lawrence as well, too. But JSN and Rodgers is a lot of fun. So the Pats have Puka. They also need a quarterback. Bo Nix is on the board, and Jordan Love is on the board. So this is the steal of the draft right here, is the Packers getting Jordan Love, honestly. But new system, we'll see what happens. Playoff update. Packers quarterback won't be thrilled with weather report. Okay, so not looking great there, but not saying he's out. So I think, and for some reason, the search has stalled. We'll see what that means here if the internet's slowing down. But it's not obvious, I guess, that he is going to miss the game. So I don't think that we have to be concerned about that. But here, let me go back and double check his last couple of games as well, too, because he was one of those guys that had the end of the season turnarounds and would play better. Really, I mean, the stats would, not play better. His stats would become elite at the end of the seasons. And you'd have to start talking about him in a new tier of quarterback, and, that carrying over to the playoffs as well, too, from time to time. I do the Cowboys game. He was crazy in that game. So it could just be, that as well, too. But he 8 for 13, 77 yards in the last game. Consistently, he's had 3 picks in the last, 3 picks in the 2 games before he got hurt. Is not great, but he did have a run of interceptionless football there. 1 interception over the course of 7 games is not a bad stretch for sure. 2 interceptions for 8 games. And, I guess he started the season almost a little bit better than he is at the end. He had 360 yards in week 7 against Pittsburgh, speaking of, in a 25-35 victory. So since that game, had a couple pretty good games after that. But he has been the last, 8 games of the season, 64%, 233 yards a game, and 13 touchdowns, 4 picks overall, 97 quarterback rating. So really, really good. But, again, not next level out of this world. Last 6 games, take those 2 better games, the first 2 of that run that we had there, he's actually down to 60%, 200 yards a game, and a touchdown and a half and an interception. So, again, he's been pretty good, but you would have to be betting for, he got randomly healthy here over the course of the break, and then extra healthy, and then, whatever extra team that we're assembling here as well, too, would reignite that sort of best version of Jordan Love that we assume that we can see. But, again, great value, and obviously Puka is just a better individual receiver than he has. So it'd be interesting to see Puka being fed by Stafford, where it's we know that Stafford does this, but also Stafford can do the other thing as well, too. He's just a great quarterback, whether, he's got to funnel it to one receiver, or he's got to get the whole crew involved. Again, not to say that Jordan Love can't do that, but on the level of Stafford, it'd be interesting to see Puka in that situation. But either way, Seahawks, maybe they get Sam Darnold now as well, too. Sam Darnold or Bo Nix. Unfortunately, somehow the 2 1-seed quarterbacks are the last quarterbacks in this redraft, and that is the problem with them as the 1 seed. Again, that's why this playoffs is chaos. This playoffs is literally chaos. We're redrafting all the teams, best players, in the two best teams, their most important player spot is the two last players, of the last two quarterbacks to get drafted are from the two best teams in the league. So I don't know if that makes sense, but again, it's not like the teams themselves, depth of talent is there. So we have to maybe bet on that at the end of the day. And the stars can be made. Maybe that's the point of this playoffs is look at the list. You don't know who the stars are going to be quite yet, but the stars can be made, like we're saying, for sure. Or, this is going to be those legacy players putting the teams on their back. Or, like we're saying, maybe our perfect predictions of Broncos, Niners, or Bills, Bears is actually the way to go. And I'm just kind of liking the Bears vibe. Now that I'm saying it out loud, it's a jinx of all jinx. It is what it is. But and a divisional matchup is maybe not the ideal matchup as well too, but also the familiarity might work in your way. So the banged up Packers versus the Bears, is it a little Indiana Oregon-ish, where after what we just watched, the team at a different spot in the season versus where these were playing last time, and the two-time divisional stuff does make it a little bit different as well there. But yeah, I think now the Seahawks might have to take Sam Darnold, honestly. Or do you just have to go Will Anderson and A.J. Brown and say, hey, we'll get Sam Darnold in the third. Screw it, we'll get Bo Nix in the third. I guess all these other teams have quarterbacks, so they're not going to take a quarterback. So, you could play it that way as well, too. And I guess it could be Mitchell. It could be, again, T.J. Watt or Hayward, one of the defensive linemen, or even Rousseau as well, too. Has to be. We haven't even mentioned Joe Alt. Honestly, Joe Alt should be up on the list just in terms of the talent as well too. I know there's been some injury stuff, I believe, with him over the season. I'm sure with just him being on the Chargers, you guess Chargers, you guess injuries. But here, let's see if Joe Alt is locked in for the playoff game. We have to check. We have to check here and double check. Oh, chat. He is out. He is out. And he still made the Pro Bowl? I thought that was the case, but hey, yo. So, hey, shout out to Joe Alt. It was a great season. So, yeah, unfortunately, Joe Alt not on the list. Maybe we can have him there in spirit. But I guess not on the real field. It is what it is. So, yeah, we're down to, I guess, we could just keep building out the defensive line. Do we just go, maybe it has to be a secondary guy. Christian Gonzalez. They could have drafted Christian Gonzalez. But instead, we'll have to take him in this redraft scenario. I think if we keep building out the defense, Leonard Williams as well. I think, chat, we're not good at drafting. We're just going to, run up against the clock running down every time. It is what it is. I think we do have to go with that defensive line still. We'll just keep building that out for the fun of it, since it's not like we're building full teams anyways. If they stack that, it's fine. Or let's just go A.J. Brown. Screw it. I know they are losing 98% of what JSN can maybe provide. But either way, it does give you a little bit of, roster building around the entire roster. Instead of just doubling up, like we're saying, at the same spot. Pause. But Pat Surtain for the Broncos, so maybe they have to be biased and take their quarterback. But I also don't think that they do, of course. And maybe they just go the offensive line. Like Mailata is on the table. I feel like we still have to take Mailata. Realistically, he'd be a little bit higher probably pick as well too. Honestly, Mailata over A.J. Brown would make sense, but I don't know. For some reason, I like the combo of Will Anderson and A.J. Brown. And Surtain and Mailata, I don't know. That makes sense as well too. Probably shouldn't, but it is what it is. The Broncos, like we're saying, building around that offensive line is kind of what they're doing already. So Mailata, chat, perfect. We got it. We know what we're talking about now. So do we have time for a rapid fire third round, or is this our playoff redraft? It might be. Hey, yo, chat, this is fun. Shout out to the Panthers for really turning the franchise around. Not only did they make a playoff push this year and win the division, but they got Josh Allen in the redraft. So, the Super Bowl hopes are high. And we probably should, with a 14 team, maybe serpentine, just to make that a little bit more even. I don't know. But, it doesn't seem too out of whack either way. I guess it would help them. It would obviously help anybody get a quarterback. And since we're not starting with like full rosters in general, like the actual draft in a rebuild, maybe a Serpentine is actually, I think in a rebuild, I think actually that would be the way to go. It is what it is. But, either way, Pat Surtain and Mailata is not a bad combo as well, too. Though now, of course, we could start taking the offensive linemen and rounding out these other teams. But Josh Allen and Josh Hines-Allen for the Panthers. Stafford and Benito for the Packers. Steelers got Drake May and Derek Stingley. So, I mean, the ones with the quarterbacks, obviously, are a little bit of advantage on paper starting off. But Herbert and Deion Dawkins for the Chargers. Trent Williams and Jalen Carter for the Eagles. Tooney and Caleb Williams for the Bears. Purdy and Minoraz for the Bills. We got CMC and Devon Witherspoon for the Niners. Verse and Hurts for the Rams. Lawrence and Cooper DeJean for the Texans. JSN and Aaron Rodgers for the Jags. Puka Nacua, and we took Love over Rodgers. Oh, still, Chad, after all these years. What are the odds? That might not work out well, but who knows? JSN and Rodgers for the Jags. Puka and Jordan Love for the Pats. Somehow the Pats still going to the Super Bowl. And Will Anderson, A.J. Brown for the Seahawks. And Pat Surtain and Jordan Mailata for the Broncos. So somehow it feels like nothing has really changed except for the Packers and the first three teams really did change. But once we get to the Chargers taking Herbert, honestly, the rest of the draft, it feels like we nailed it. Feels like it's exactly how it would play out. Trent Williams and Jalen Carter, very Eagles-esque. I don't know, Witherspoon to the Niners. It all seems like it makes sense. But we could keep this going on Sunday, but we'll just keep the live stream going. The good times, the playoff watching Sunday as well. We'll be here for it. Let's double check and see what we've got on the schedule here for that. Of course, you can join us live here on the YouTube. You can find us up on the podcast platforms. You can send us a message at REMINGTOM Pod if you want to connect with us that way as well. We've got, are we going to be live during the Eagles-Niners? We might be live during that game. Or do we go live during Patriots-Chargers? I think we maybe have to, because of some family in town stuff, go live during that Eagles-Niners game. But that would be, of course, obviously, a super fun one that hopefully is, and like we're saying, the evenness, maybe the legacy stuff, those are two of the little bit more familiar teams that we have. So, I mean, this playoffs is going to be great. And the Panthers with Josh Allen and Josh Hines-Allen are going to, definitely have the best shot of winning this. It is what it is. So thank you guys for jumping on with us tonight. We can't wait for the start of the playoffs for the national championship. We still got one more game to figure out, Miami or Indiana, who actually is able to take it home. But shout out to Signetti, shout out to the run, shout out to Fernando Sicario Mendoza himself. And like I said, we'll be back Sunday, NFL playoffs. We'll see you then. Have a good weekend. Peace.